meeting to order. Special meeting of the East Lyme Board of Finance. We'll first stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is delegations. There is nobody in the room here, so we'll move past that. New business. So tonight at this special meeting of the Board of Finance, we are hearing from a number of East Lyme departments with their proposed budget requests. I just want to remind all the board members that we're not actually making final decisions tonight on any of the items that are proposed to us. Tonight is really our first night of exploring and understanding what the proposals are, and give us a chance to ask questions and become comfortable or uncomfortable, as the case may be, with some of these requests. Are there any questions from board members before we get started? All right. First up for the budget review is Public Works. So you want to just announce yourself to the world and get going.
Yeah. My name's Joe Bergal. I'm the Director of Public Works in town. I'm also a resident, so I want to preface this by saying I do lead the Public Works Department. I understand this is very difficult times with the budgets, so I have a little different tact. I'll go through it as quickly as I can, but I want to first start by just kind of letting this board, as I did with the Board of Selectmen, know really what our department does. It's so important when the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, when they put out budgets, to know what the value the taxpayers are getting. And sometimes I'm not sure everyone knows. They see our trucks, but they don't know. So I want to go over that. And then the other part of this is I want to go over, there's a lot of things in our budget that we don't control, and this board might not be aware of it, they may be aware of it, but that's why I want to kind of go over those things so you understand when, at any time when I talk, you can ask me questions, it's informal, and at the end if you have any specific questions. So, jumping right in, I do have the PowerPoint here, I also have it there, but Highway Department. We're starting with Department 4303, and I understand it is a bigger budget of the town. It's the current year, it's $4.5 million. What does the town get for $4.5 million? Well, we have 118 miles of road in town. We have 17 miles of sidewalk. Even like up at Exit 74, they just did all those new we're just taking over another mile of sidewalk. It's really nice to have it, but it has to be maintained, plowed, everything like that. As if anyone was in hiding under a rock, but it was a very difficult winter, so you probably know what the Public Works Department was doing. In the wintertime, we're there. Whether there's 5 inches, this winter was a very difficult winter, and our crews did all the work. We didn't hire contractors. We plowed all the roads, salted them. A lot of the people right after the storm, and we got a lot of good feedback. Why is my road clear? This was a very unusual year. We had 22 inches of snow. In February, we had another one in 15. So that all has to be, that's labor hours, that's salt and stuff like that. So our department also picks up trash. So not everyone in town realizes that that's our crews. In the region, there's only 3 towns that pick up the trash, and I've done the numbers. It's more cost effective for us to do it than to outsource it. So if the thought, sometime, why don't we just outsource it, we'll save money, that's not the case, because we do it very efficiently and effectively. We do a lot of special collections. We pick up Christmas trees, we pick leaves, this board, but at Board of Selectmen, if you ever heard, like the Board of Selectmen sets all the rates for at the transfer station, and we had all kinds of big discussions of commercial contractors getting charged lease fees, but we pick up all the leaves and go around town, so that's a huge effort for us for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks a year. We pick up bulky waste. We operate the town's transfer station. I hope any of you have been up there, but we did a big renovation there without a huge, we funded that through a steep grant, and we didn't really hit the taxpayers too much on that, and it's a very, very excellent facility that all the taxpayers, the residents of town can use. We sweep all the 110 miles, 118 miles of road, so that doesn't go, that takes 6-8 months. A lot of times we go through the town twice. We do all the parking lots. Believe it or not, there's about 2,900 linear feet of stormwater pipes and about 2,900 catch basins and about 300,000 linear feet of drainage. That doesn't mean every year we're fixing that, but there's a lot of stuff that happens that we just can't predict. All of a sudden there's a sinkhole, like someone, any resident in town will call up, I have a sinkhole, and all of a sudden we realize we have to replace 100 feet of pipe. That comes out of our budget. Some of the other things we do are, we have fantastic team that actually does a lot of this construction work, so we try as little as we can to outsource it, because we already have our guys are on our team is already on the staff that we're paying them. They do a lot of the construction themselves. They do drainage work, pavement repairs. They do other town projects, whether it's at the community center, all over. We go around the whole town and cut the grass. Like if you go, you might not, if we don't do it, everyone knows, but it could, because we are doing it, no one calls. But all the sight lines, when you pull out of streets and like that, you go in the country, that mower's going around all year long. So that takes a lot of work. You drive around town in the 118 miles, we have 39 miles of double yellow. We have to spray paint that every year. We have a lot of white edge lines, stop bars, crosswalks, pavement markings. These are all things that are in this budget that has to be done, or else the public notices it because they drive the roads, walk the roads. In this budget, we also maintain the streetlights. I'll get into the streetlights more, but we have 1,500 streetlights. That's all comes out of this budget. We maintain all the town vehicles, and when I say town, I'm talking not just the highway department, highway sanitation. We maintain the parks and rec vehicles. We maintain the police vehicles. We maintain the animal control, senior bus, emergency management, all the government vehicles. We even are starting to maintain some of the fire vehicles. We don't do the fire apparatus, the pumping trucks, because that's specially certified, but all their other trucks. It's 150, 160 vehicles. It's a lot, and our guys do that so that we don't have to outsource that, which is a huge savings to the town. In this department, last year, or this is the first year, we merged engineering into it. So it's highway sanitation and engineering. So what does engineering do? We perform all the design work on well, here's a good example. We did the town hall renovation. Like, we had to do the ADA compliance. That if that was outsourced and we got a designer to put together the plans, it would have probably been $75,000, $100,000. Did it in-house. Manage the project. We oversee these projects. We put together on-call projects. That's our way. Like, we don't know whatever all the things we have to do. So whether we're doing drainage work, sidewalk work, paving, and excavation, we put out on-call contracts. So we have a contract. So whatever we have to do out there, it's already bid, and it meets the purchasing policy that not only the Board of Selectmen but the Board of Finance are looking for us to follow. And we do all the project administration. As I said, we did the $500,000 the town hall ADA compliance, which is just about done, and it's a huge improvement to this building. We put in the EV charging stations here. If you walked around the high school up on Boston Post Road, there's about 800 feet of new sidewalk on the south side of the road. We put that in because there was a lot of people walking and needing, and that was a big safety improvement. That was all laid out in-house and coordinated in-house. By doing this, we saved the town money by not having to have this outsourced. We can do this, and we can do all these great value-added things to the town without having to, we're doing it very economically and effectively. We're actually administering a lot of projects right now, and a lot of them are projects that don't have to be funded by the town taxpayers. So I know there's another pocket, and any kind of funding comes from somewhere, but right now we have a $500,000 Plan Stam reconstruction. If you up on Boston Post Road, up by Plan Stam, there's a dam up there. We got a $500,000 steep grant a few years ago, and that's going to start getting constructed this year. We have to manage that. Our office, our Deputy Public Works Director, put together the East Pat. And if you're driving out East Pat on the road, it connects from 161 over to 156. That road's getting pretty beat up. We were able to put it in a LOTSIP, which is a state grant. It's very competitive. We have the #1 project where we're putting in sidewalks from all the way from Nyack Center School all the way to 161. That was designed in-house. It has to be managed in-house. It's a $3.3 million project. It's being paid by state funds, so it's part of people's taxes, but it's not part of East Lyme's taxes. That's a huge project that's coming up. We're starting next month, we're replacing Colony Road Bridge up in Flanders. That's the town's bridge. When I say bridge, it's 2 culverts. I grew up right next to it. I'm very familiar with it. The DOT inspects all the town bridges every 2 years, and that one they said you have to replace it. If we had to do it, it would have been millions of dollars. We were able to get it eligible for the federal local bridge program. $5 million project. We're trying to manage that. That's starting now. It's going to be this year. Next year, if you've ever been down the Beachway, if you try to go out the beaches and go towards the west, Fairhaven Road, down by the marsh, that where the infamous we have the temporary barriers there for the last few years. That started as a project that we were going to try to fund internally for a few $100,000, and it came in much more than that. This project is now eligible, and that project's going to be replaced with federal and state programs. But I'm saying this because back to the engineering part, we have to manage these things, and if you add up all these things, we're just putting out the RFP for the brownfield for the old police station. All these projects, it's $21 billion worth of projects, have to be done in-house, but it provides tremendous value to the town. And then the engineering department also, they do all the reviews for land use office. We do all the right-of-way and driveway permits. It's really important for us to do whatever's in the right-of-way of the town. We try to get permits for, so people, you hear it now because you see people complaining, oh, my wall got knocked out or something like that, but they built the wall 6 inches from the road and it should have never been there. That's why we try to manage the whole right-of-way process to make sure people put things in the right spot. We help other departments. We manage the town's pavement management. We inspect all the sidewalks in town. If you have people tripping on the town sidewalk, we get sued. So we have 17 miles of sidewalk. We walk all the sidewalks. We fix all the issues. We put money into repairing them. And then we manage all the town and federal, state permit requirements. So we have a lot to do. The service, and we feel that we take it. We have East Lyme has a very tremendous staff that provides the taxpayers with excellent value. But we have, unfortunately, a lot of variables in our budget. This is some, like this year, a perfect example. We've had $100,000 in the overtime line, which you'll see. And this year we're at $225,000. We don't just stop at 100, of course, and we have to keep going, but that's something that I don't control. I'm not looking to come back to this board to ask for more money, so we have to try to balance that. It's hard to guesstimate how much garbage we're paying for all the garbage. So just so everyone is clear, what does taxpayers of East Lyme get when they roll their can out to the street? They have to pay for the can, because the cans are now about 20 years old, and if we gave everyone a new can, that would be a bigger cost. But the taxes pay for the trash to be disposed of. So when we pick it, we dump it in the truck, we drive around town, we pick it up, we drive it up to Lisbon and dump it. When it gets dumped, whatever the weight is, that bill gets sent to us. So I have no idea on every year how much trash people are going to put in there. So that's a variable. How many streetlights have issues? Dead trees. We have to absorb the cost of a department's fuel. So I'll get into some of these. In the trash line, it was $912. You guys are getting it now at $900. So $900,000. You'll see this line in here. Why $900,000? It's broken up into 3 parts. 86% of that is the trash, as I just said. It's all the trash that the East Lyme residents and businesses put in the cans, and it's disposed of. It's about 10,000 tons a year. It fluctuates. Sometimes it's 9,800. Sometimes it's 10,300. But that's a large portion. Also, if you've ever been to the transfer station, people dump bulky waste. So what bulky waste is? Anything that can't go in the can, like couches and all the other stuff, has to go to the transfer station. When they bring that up to the transfer station, that gets dumped in the bulky waste. They have to pay as you go, and we have to haul that to CWPM, and we get charged for that. So that's a portion of that 900,000 line. And then the last bit is that to try to be effective and efficient with up there is whenever people can bring their recycling up to the transfer station, we have a compactor, because cardboard and everything is so fluffy and everything like that. So everything you could do to pack these bins as tight as you can so it minimizes transportation costs. What's happening right now in SCARA, I'm the president of the Regional Trash Authority, is the East Lyme, the SCARA, Southeastern Connecticut Regional Resource Recovery Authority. It's 12 towns in southeastern Connecticut. We have the best deal in the state. It's phenomenal. We're only paying $75 a ton. The going rate's about 110 to 115. Our contract only goes till the year 2030, the end of 2030, so we're only 4 years away. So SCARA, and I'm the representative for East Lyme, has been voting to increase the tip fee up to getting closer to the market so that when we get to 2030, we don't go up the cliff. And I asked for a 45% increase in the line so that's why that line is going up. So it sounds like, oh my God, trash is going up and oh, the department's going up. It's an incredible deal for the town. Actually, a lot of area towns, Montville doesn't cover it in their taxes. Groton doesn't cover it in their taxes. Stonington is pay as you throw. So there's not a lot of towns that actually trash as part of your taxes, and it's in our department. And the last thing is when you roll out the recycling, the gray cans, SCARA pays for all the recycling in all the towns. Tremendous value. If the town of East Lyme was not in SCARA, it would cost us another $180,000 a year to pay for recycling. Because just because it says recycling doesn't mean it's free. It's actually almost the same cost as trash, but it's the right thing to do because they can reuse. So the problem is it's putting stress on the budget when it's up 11%. Fleet maintenance. We're showing an increase this year of 30,000. We were at 300. There's a lot of factors that affect fleet maintenance. The cost of parts. When it gets into fleet maintenance, you can't just put a CPI. It's like 3% more. When it comes to parts, it's whatever they tell you the parts are, because it's just getting very expensive to fix some of our aging vehicles. A reality is when you get into the CIP things, whenever you cut vehicles or whenever vehicles are cut from the CIP and they have to stay in the fleet longer, they just have more maintenance to them. And then growing the fleet. And here's another one. We just had these storms. We're probably had about $30,000 worth of damage to all of our equipment. I mean, you put the equipment through some of these weather conditions. So here's a chart. Charts are better than words. If you look on this, on the right side, 2022, and then you go towards the left, in this current year, we're projected to be probably about 400,000 in repairs, but I only have 300,000 in line. So what do? I have to juggle money and take it out of roads and stuff like that. So it gets back to that concept I was talking about, is that we have a lot of variables in our budget. So when things get cut, I mean, we're extremely lean right now. If things get cut, we're going to get to a point of just either not being able to fix things or not doing services because we don't have extra anything in this. Fuel. So I hope you're aware, but in the highway budget is the fuel for everyone. It's the fuel for Parks and Rec, for police, fire, animal control, senior buses. So if the senior buses have more routes, the police have more. If they have more vehicles, or they're up at exit 74. Parks and Rec. If any of the departments are going over, it hits our budget. So that becomes a strain on our budget. You'll be happy to hear I watch it like a hawk, like I watch every month of like who's using what, and I try to flag departments that might be going over. And this chart just shows that we watch all the departments, and we also purchase, you'll also be happy to know, we purchased all our fuel for next year, and we purchased it for a lot less than it is now. So we're not exposed at all to any of these, what's going on in the world with everything like that. These guys get sick of me because I watch the fuel futures, and when it kind of drops, like one year I bought it on Black Friday, on the day after Thanksgiving. I got called that the fuel was plummeting, and I ran into the thing, and we bought $500,000 worth of fuel. But we bought it for much cheaper than it is last year's, because anything that's budgeted is cheaper. I'm sure you guys are happy with. So that's a good thing, and that's why. So our department locked in the fuel this year at 7.7 and 12.3% less for unleaded and diesel than we're paying now. So you're going to look at your budget and you probably say, then why is your budget up 3.1%? And I'm about to tell you why. Last year, or in this current year, as everyone's aware, the whole breaking off of the fire department and the ambulance association, well, our department took the fire department's fuel this year, and that was estimated a certain amount, and it was 8,000. They're using 8,000 more than was estimated or was added to our budget. So that doesn't hit the fire department. It hits the highway department budget. That the fuel is more in fire. We also, with everything else, is the system that manages the fuel so that finance can bill it. It's called Fuel Master. It went to an online thing, and there's a $5,000 fee every year that we have to pay for this system. Before, our department used to absorb it. Now I'm dividing that cost up amongst all the gallons that bought, and that's Board of Ed, fire, water, sewer, and the town, and I think it's like 200,000 gallons. And it's that all the fuels, all the fees for paying for the program fees and also for the repairs on the pumps gets distributed equally amongst all the users of the system. So Board of Ed's paying their fair share, water's paying their share, for sewers are paying their fair shares. As I say, spreading out. Streetlights, showing an increase of 21,000 there. So I'm not sure if everyone remember, and it's one of the proud things I did here. I've been here 12 years, but back in 2015, 11 years ago, we purchased the lights from Eversource. We paid $230,000 from Eversource to buy the whole lights, to buy the street lights in the town. So now they're East Lyme's. At the time, we paid another $420 to relamp them all with LEDs. So back in 2015, we were paying 230. It's the last line. We were paying $230,000 back in 2015 for the streetlight line. How we did it is we took the 230 plus the 420, and we purchased them for 420 and we relamped for 550. So we took out a 7-year loan, and we paid the same amount that we were paying each year for 7 years. We paid the same 230, and we paid off the loan. So back in 2022, 23, we actually paid the last payment. So you're looking at this line now, and it shows like 79,000. That line was 230,000 way back when. So now it's dropped. The problem is we're starting to get up there. Now we're almost 10 years into this thing, and here's another chart so you can see. It's working to the right here. The line is the budget is not keeping up with the cost of the streetlight repairs. Why I'm getting at that is back in 2022, 23, our budget was light blue was 212, and then the budget in 23, 24 dropped to 67.7, and the actual was 62. But then in 24, 25, the budget was 73, so we eked the budget up by 16, but the repairs got to 97, and this year it's projected to be 99. What is driving this? So there's two things I didn't know at the time that we're finding out now, and it's still better that we did this. Two things. One is that every time a pole gets changed by Eversource, they charge us $500 to swap the light. I don't control that. I have no idea what their Eversource's plans are, so all the poles are getting changed around town. I'm getting all these extra Eversource bills. The second is all the neighborhoods in town that don't have, they're lucky they don't have the overhead wires, all the underground wires that have standalone poles. More and more of those lights are failing. That's usually an underground fault. So instead of having my electrician go up and change a light for $400, now it's $4,000. They have to go digging 80 feet to find where the fault is. It's our responsibility because Eversource, we bought them from Eversource. So my main thing is that we just have to make sure that the funding line is accurate, what the actual, because I don't control how many repairs, and I'd hate to be, I mean, we have a bunch of repairs right now, and I hate to say we're not repairing because I don't have money. That's not what the taxpayers want to hear. So what we need to do is make sure that the budget line is the proper amount. So that's why this year I'm budgeting $100,000, which is that increase. Regular payroll shows an increase, but it's pretty. You're going to see this. I'm the first department I believe that you're talking to, but they're with UPSU, which is the main bargaining unit for the town. UPSU is highway department. It's Parks and Rec department. It's the admin. It's the water, sewer. They have a contractual 2.75 general wage increase, which is actually pretty reasonable, relatively speaking, in municipal around there. So that's a fixed cost. But we did have a few employees that got their CDLs and moved up in classifications. And just the other thing, and it's not a competition as far as I know. Other departments have to put in and present their budget, but we're not asking for any more people. We're actually down a person. So over all the years that I've been here, we used to have 23 people in the highway department. This current year, we dropped to 22. And we did that because of the budget, the stress on the budget. I'd rather go with 22 good people than go with 23 people and then having these departments start saying you need to cut people or something like that. So we have 22 good people, but we're actually down a person from years past. So it's like we're lean already. Overtime, we have that 100,000 line. It actually got cut last year. I tried to raise it, and then it got cut back. And now, as I said, that line's at 225,000 right now, and the line was 105. So I don't control that. I don't control how many. I mean, I on social media, when someone was saying, "Well, what happens on the lean years?" I don't. You guys know. I don't get to keep the money. If it's a lean year and it comes in at 60,000, that goes back to the general fund. But on a year like this, it's over by 130. So. We go out there for Celebrate East Lyme. We have 8 people up there cleaning. Everyone's compliments. It looks great downtown that we all cleaned up. That's about $3,000-4,000. I mean, if we don't send our people out there, that would be better for the budget. But that's kind of something that's near and dear to the town. We're out there for the light parade doing the same thing. We're covering shifts on the weekend because sometimes that regular staff, some days we're running late on the trash, having to do double collection, all the call-outs. It just adds up. So that 100,000 in this year's budget, 105, goes pretty quick, but we don't have any control over what that's going to be. There was an increase in the first line, the 51,618, and I can, if you have any questions, to go. But the reason, just so you all understand why that line was showing a little more of an increase and it ended up getting cut, is at this time last year, I'm the director of Public Works. I have a deputy director. For the people who know, Bill Shear was a deputy director. Bill retired last year. I also had a town engineer, Alex Close, who I think has been in front of this board. He got promoted to the deputy. At the time, they said, okay, it's during the budget. Can you hold off filling Alex's position? We're still trying to fill that position, and it's necessary to back to when I was talking about we were managing $21 million of grant projects. We're running around with our heads cut off trying to keep these projects going for the value of the town. But that's where that line, if it's showing any more increase than the 2.75, is because we're trying to put that person back, trying to get a person to help the staff to manage these projects, because in the end it gives a better value to the taxpayers. Trees. I did put in $10,000 increase in the tree line. That's since been cut, so you don't see any increase, but so just to let you know, we're responsible at the right-of-way of town. If you go up in all the northern areas, you drive around. I'm the tree warden of town. I try not to look up, because if you look up all the time, then this budget will be $300,000. We're responsible for all trees in the right-of-way. If the tree's dead, we have to take it down. It's not just removing dead trees. What's catching up to us is if you drive around town, especially the northern section of town, the tree canopy. So what's the tree canopy? There's a little picture. The branches growing into the canopy start coming down to 10, 12, 11 feet. So when the school buses or people love to drive their boats around town, like anything like is driving around, larger trucks, they start scraping the trees and stuff like that. It's our responsibility to trim that canopy, because otherwise it could keep growing down and we'll have a big problem. We have 118 miles of road. I spent $20,000 to try to cut about a mile of canopy up in the northern end of town earlier this year. $20,000, because we don't have the equipment to do it. That has to be outsourced. That's why I was trying to put the increase in to try to trim the canopy. So it's just one of the things that we should be doing, but I think that's something that's going to suffer, because we have to make sure we reserve the funds for the dead trees first. And nowadays you could have a large tree. I mean, down at Saunders Point, we just had it. One come down. There's like you look at those and it's like, oh, that looks like it's about $8,000. I mean, these trees are a lot to take down. If you need a crane, so. Even though it's showing $50,000. One of the things we do is leverage anything that's near a wire. We have a great relationship with Eversource, so I think one of the things this board should be asking me, and just to let you know I do it, we do anything we can to try to find ways that other people can pay. And Eversource takes down probably 3 times as much trees for us. If there's anything near a tree line, I reach out to Eversource, they cut it down. We have a great working relationship, and that's a big savings to the taxpayers of the towns. So, in conclusion, for this budget, our budget is pretty lean. We do look at our expenses all year long. there's nothing extra in there. Like right now, I'm managing all the stuff, so we're over on the overtime, we're over on the streetlights because there's been a lot of. So I'm trying to find where are we going to make up that money in the budget. When I say make up the money, we're going to do less drainage work. But last year we were cut $208,000 in the budget. Last year, this year we've already been cut 88 before it's even got to you guys. We're currently sitting at 3.87, which is really not a large percentage. I mean, I'm a taxpayer. Anything over zero is more than thing, but it's not a crazy number, and we will do the best we can with the funding we provided, but we're extremely lean, so we're at the point that if more stuff comes out of here, we're going to just have to work with these guys of what service does the taxpayers of this town not want us to do, because we try to be as efficient as possible. Our guys do a fantastic job. It's just we're at the breaking point. We can't really find any place else to do it, so it would just be less services to the people. So I'm going to be going over 2 budgets. This is the biggest one. I'm also going to go over building maintenance, but I apologize, and I'll stop talking if you have any questions on this budget, and then we can get into building maintenance.
Thanks. Appreciate all the details. Questions from any members of the board?
So, just so I'm clear, you're asking if we have questions about Public Works, Highways, Sanitation, and
Yes.
Engineering based on that presentation?
Yeah, 105-4303. Anything in that budget, anything in this budget, any questions you have?
Okay, I have a few.
Sure.
So specific to personnel, you have 22 highway maintainers. You mentioned
Correct.
the union contract in July of 25.
Correct.
Wage increases. Do we know what the percentage of that wage increase was?
2.75. But it's by the contract, yeah.
Yeah, understood. Okay. And then, are you familiar with the concept of span of control, meaning the number of leaders you have managing frontline workers? Have you heard of that
I haven't heard
term?
that context, no.
Okay. I'm curious for the 22 unionized staff members. How many of your 5 salaried positions are actually overseeing those 22?
So when are you saying that the people from the line 51618? I can tell you exactly.
Yes.
So line 5168, there's really one person in that's managing that group. So I'll break down exactly what's in that line. Public Works Supervisor is the highway superintendent who is managing the 22. There's 70% of my salary, because I also manage water. I also manage water and sewer, which is not taxpayer dollars. The deputy is 100%. That's in that line. The deputy runs all the projects and does all this stuff. We have a civil engineer that's downstairs that prepares all the plans and does all the stuff. And then the remaining amount is the town engineer position, the position that we're filling as well. So if you
Okay.
expand, it was one person managing the 22.
One person. Okay. And then, is it common in most towns to have a civil engineer and a town engineer within Public Works?
Well, it's hard to say that because we also have water and sewer, and I understand they're ratepayers, so we're kind of there's not a lot of towns like East Lyme. I was a director in Stonington for years, and over here we have so much more things going on. Like, not a lot of towns are managing $21 million worth of projects and stuff like that. So, and not a lot of towns also do all their work a lot of towns have consultants do projects. Like if they did this project here, the town hall ADA compliance, that would have been a $600,000 project because they were just tacked on $100 to manage it. So, is it common? Some towns do, some towns don't. But the value that of what the people are doing down there and the value of the projects they get, not every town has. They just had the park down there. It has all these different projects that we design and manage all these projects.
Okay.
I hope I answered your question.
Yes. Next question. Around uniforms, this is a very small expense for the town, but Has that uniform service been bid out recently?
It hasn't been bid out in the last 2 years, but most of that money is not the uniform service. The 18 of the 22 just get a stipend. So there's, of that money, there's only 4, it's only the mechanics that are getting uniform service. So it's only probably about 20% of that number. And that's not to minimize as far as but we did get price, we pooled that pricing with also water and sewer to get a better pricing. As far as they still have the uniform service for their sewer maintainers, but most of that uniform allowance line is what is it, $250? It's $300. $300 an employee.
Okay.
So that's contractual. So 300 times 18 is most of that number.
I was just asking about the service for the cleaning of the clothes, the laundering.
Yeah.
So you're saying 2 years ago? Okay. And then for fleet maintenance?
Yep.
Has that ever been bid out?
What do you mean by his fleet maintenance?
To have a company manage the fleet as opposed to having our repair technicians take care of the fleet, if I'm understanding, you have...
I understand what you're saying, and it's never been a bid out, but I honestly don't know a town that does that. It's actually one of the things, the nature of fleet maintenance in a municipality, they're like police cars are coming in, everyone's coming in and stuff like that. I don't even know how you would do that to have it bid out, where you're talking to outsource the fleet maintenance, right? I could look into it. I don't even know a model that does that because of the nature of police cars pulling in and all the vehicles pulling in, and they just do maintenance all the time. It's like that to try to schedule an outside, it would really put a real crimp in operations. I mean,
So
if that was bid out, like even in a storm, you have the mechanics that are sitting there waiting for things because things break as the storms go on.
I would just offer, you could look into healthcare, ambulances, ambulance companies. Oftentimes, large ambulance companies will bid out their fleet maintenance. Ambulance companies, just to give you an example of an industry that does. And I would say ambulances are similar in the fact that when they have an ambulance offline, right, there's safety issues, there's care not being provided. But that might be an industry where you could look to see if fleet management was outsourced.
Okay.
And then I also wanted to ask regarding Public Works telephones, if that is an arrangement that is set up under Verizon government contracts, because I have found in my career experience that I will say that is not the least costly approach. Even they'll say, oh, you have great you have government contracts, it's great pricing. It's frankly not great pricing from Verizon or any of the big guys, and I would encourage us to look at resellers of the services.
We don't use Verizon. We have AT&T FirstNet through the police department, so it's the first.
AT&T.
It's AT&T FirstNet. AT&T FirstNet's separate than even from AT&T, and that was all managed. All that contract stuff was all bid out through emergency services about 2 years ago, and that's with the whole town. I don't even I get those bills, but those bills get sent to IT. Right?
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I have two quick questions. First, compliments on a really good presentation. I mean, it was great to go through here and see all the good things that you're doing in the town. It's getting back for the money that you're expending. I also like seeing how 58100 you took out the dues for professional organizations, because I've seen some of the budgets that's really high, and I think one of the it's a testament to your cost control measures that you took that out, and I was glad to see that. That's your total budget increase is about 4.5 million.
The total budget? Yeah, it's up 3.87.
It's around 4 million, a little over that.
It's at 4.7.
4.7.
Yep.
Okay. I was doing some math, and I'm thinking in terms of going to if we walked up to the door of, say, the median taxpayer in the town, we're kind of like knocking on the door and saying, we're asking you for about $500 next year to an increase of your taxes, a $500 increase to support the work of the Highway Sanitation and Engineering Department. If they then said back to us, what would we say to them in term to basically justify the $500 annual increase in their taxes for this?
Well, it'd be very easy. It's like, it pays for your garbage because we can get rid of the garbage pickup. That would be, I mean, in Montville and Groton, people pay $500-600 a year for taxes. They drive to work. As far as going over a road that the town is maintaining, they enjoy sidewalks and they like to have their sight lines cleared, and all the different things that I said are when they go away, people call and people want it fixed, and we hear, I pay taxes, you need to fix it. I said, we're doing the best we can with the funds that we have. So, some people have kids that go to school, the emergency service provide thing. Everyone pretty much either drives over a road or walks on a sidewalk to get places. So, and also during COVID, I didn't realize how essential services trash pickup was, because when they started saying essential, like you always hear first responders and you hear police and fire, I just assumed our guys weren't that, so it was okay, then we won't pick up garbage. Oh no, you got to do that. So trash is like a kid, it's life, liberty, and pursuit of trash pickup. If any boards want to mess with them, mess with trash, and you'll have a lot of people upset. It's a huge value to the town that they pick up the trash and recycling every day. So just alone, that $500 is what people are paying in other towns for trash pickup.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good.
One quick question. So
Microphone.
for the outside services, supplies, and miscellaneous, I'm sure you do this. Have you audited which programs you use? Are there any that you say here, like drug testing, I'm assuming is very important, but are there any that you found we don't really use and could remove from that line?
So drug testing is required. If you have CDL drivers in your employer, you have to random test your drugs. So that's not let's decide not to do it. So that's a requirement. What are the other ones on there?
Indeed, job recruitment.
Well, we had just, so the UPSU contract just got renegotiated. Our employees, especially in the highway department, were being paid $5 less an hour than everywhere else. So we were getting mass exodus of people. So we were spending a lot of money in job. At the turn of this last July, we were down 5 people. And I would go in the morning to people and they would yell at me that we weren't paying them enough. And I said, you just need to let me try to. So we figured that out and we got more reasonable pay in the framework of this budget. That didn't kill the budget, in my opinion, for our department. But as recruitment these days, you have to, if you don't get good people, then those are the people that serve the taxpayers of the town. So I want the best people we can get. So recruitment's important. We have Comcast because that's what gives us all access to, we have to be watching the weather stations and all the other different things. So and Kevin knows this, I kind of do zero budgeting. I don't take a budget and say, okay, we're going to add 5%. I look at it and build it from zero and build every single thing to answer your question. Is it needed? I'm a taxpayer town, I get it. So we don't spend anything extra that we don't have to. And I appreciate asking the question about the fleet maintenance. I'll look into it. I did say the thing about the trash. I looked into it. I had an exterior a trash company ask what the cost is. Are we doing this for a better value for the town? And we are. I can give you the numbers if you want to see it. So I will look into the fleet maintenance. We always look into anything we can to get a better value. If it means that we have to have all those people, it means we have to do. That's the world. But we give a tremendous value in this town. I mean, I think there was a lot of kudos during the storm of the condition of what the guys did. There was a lot of towns that had outside contractors. I kind of held off on bringing those in, and now those people are paying the bills of those, and we're not, because those contractors were offering to help, but they were going to send $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 bills. We didn't do that. So we're always mindful of trying, in the end, to try to get the best value of buck. Unfortunately, it's a $4.7 million budget. It sounds like a lot of money. Just back to Barry's question, I think we pick up the trash, we keep the roads in good condition, we keep the sidewalks, we do all, when people can't do stuff, they call Public Works. Even sometimes if Parks and Rec doesn't have a lot of staff, if they need help, we go over there. At the community center, if they need anything to clean up, we send the troops. We have the equipment, we do it. We have we have a great team, and they do tremendous projects for the town. You can see them all around town. That's why when you drive around town, a lot of the things that happen is because of all the work of the people, and we like to keep doing that because I think the people appreciate that.
I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
I
So,
wanna go to Rich.
oh, sorry.
Okay. I just want to make sure the board recognizes that last year you gave back money. Your department, the fire department, and the police department were asked, were there monies that would be available to be given back? And so that $200,000 that was cut last year, some of that was through your actions to make suggestions as to what could be cut. So I want to have the board appreciate that. And then just a couple of things. Barry had noted the zero funding for dues and professional organizations, but I do need to point out that in the narrative, that has been moved to safety equipment and training. So the dues are still there, but the dues are necessary for the professional.
It's less than it was before, but it did meld into that. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're correct in the notes.
Yeah.
The only thing we're paying on dues is to be in the American Public Works Association, which is all in their area of Public Works, and then it's for my professional engineering license and for Alex's because he's a professional engineer. There's
Right.
we're not going to conferences all around the country and stuff like that. That's all we have in there.
Right. Yeah, I realize your department is one of the leanest that we have. One thing that I noticed that the Board of Selectmen had taken out of your budget was the $5,000 for traffic calming measures.
Yep.
And I've always advocated each year for that measure to be in there. Because to me, that's less expensive than police officers. And since traffic control seems to be one of the big issues in town, could you give us an idea of what types of things besides the speed signs that you do for traffic calming measures?
Thank you. And I know you've been a big advocate of that. But one of the big things we're trying to do now is pavement markings. We did the pavement markings on Pine Grove Road. When I say the outside edge lines, if you have a 30-foot wide road and you have a double yellow and there's 15 feet on the side, a lot of space for a car, you just feel very comfortable to go fast. If you put white edge lines on the outside and tighten it up, you haven't changed the pavement area, but you've made the driver like, oh, I got to stay in this line. So even though people want speed bumps, and we already have 6 of the digital speed signs, so we don't really need any more. One of the things I was going to try to do is, if you go in Waterford on Nyack River Road, they have tick marks on some of the tight corners. I was going to start doing the tick marks on Black Point Road and some other spots where people are coming too fast. So we were just trying to find any kind of, it was still traffic calming, but we used that also on Methodist Street. We put the pavement markings, so now when you go to Methodist Street, cutting in between, there's all the striping is so that it's very clear where you're going. So, because if a driver is going clear, it's still traffic calming if they know where to go. And we also, our department took it upon, we saw a lot on social media, oh, someone's going to get killed on Main Street crossing at the crosswalks. We did all the attaching of the no parking. No one asked us to do that. That's something you can do. You're not allowed by state law to park 25 feet from a crosswalk. People would do it anyways. All we did was put paint there. Because you know what, the police could have ticketed it anyways, but now we worked with the police, and now it's safer downtown. It is still traffic calming because it made it so people are not, pedestrians can feel comfortable to walk in the road. So those are the kind of things that we were doing with that number. The only reason I proposed to remove it is that it was brought up to me, the Board of Selectmen, well, you have traffic calming, can you get rid of that? And I'm like, I hate to do it, but as I said before, something's got to give.
Yeah.
I can put it back, and if they ask me to take 5,000, I don't know where to take it from because I'm either not going to fix streetlights, I'm not going to cut the grass, and at some point now we're very lean. So I cut it out. If we can do something, it'd be great, but it was a line that was introduced a few years ago, and so I took it out because times are times. I mean, to cut $88,000 out of my budget, I didn't come in with a budget that I was gonna be having an extra 100,000, so it's cut back. It was already lean, so
Right.
now I'm like at the point where $5,000 had to come out. I took the 10,000 out of the tree canopy. That's gonna hurt because I think it's really gonna suffer up north. I really wish we could do more trimming up there, but our guys can't reach the branches up that high. It's not safe for them to be cutting there. You need to do it from a bucket truck. And we delayed the starting of the extra engineer position because it's just trying to find anywhere I could to get down to the numbers that they need to get to get to you guys.
Right. Appreciate it, Chuck.
Yep, thank
Anything
you.
else, Rich?
No, that's it.
Kim, good?
No, I was gonna ask about the cuts, so that covered it.
Just a question about 54101, the garbage recycling and disposal of the 912,000. You mentioned Stonington has a model where you pay as you go for recycling.
Correct.
Have you considered doing that here maybe as a pilot?
So,
And what might it look like if you did?
thank you for bringing it up. I can't be the sole person. So any town that it's going to work in has to be three essential pieces to work. The Public Works Department, all the policymakers, and the people in the town. The Public Works can't do that because if the Public Works does it, we're going to get hammered. But like we don't control that. If these boards, like they try to do it in London, they try to do it in Montville just recently. I'm all for that because if you want to try to carve 500,000 or 600,000 to bags, but it's just every time, and not to put Dan on the spot, but every time I brought it up before him to his predecessors, there, oh, is that the bag thing? Like the bags, East Lyme was one of the first ones to do this. I don't know if you remember back. I'll look back. Wayne's probably looking at us, but Wayne Frazier came into town. That was his pit. That was his platform. Get rid of the bags. So it's already been done in this town. We can do it, but it has to. I apologize for being very truthful, but it has to be. This board has to be behind it. The Board of Selectmen has to be behind it. Our department has to be behind it, and the people have to understand why it's because they're going to say it's a garbage tax, and that's what happens. But if the boards stand together and we can all work together to convince the public that you know what you're going to have to do this. It will save the town money, but it can't be done through our department. I'm just saying that because it's not, we don't have the wherewithal to do it. It has to come from the policymakers to say we're going to do this. And I can get someone to meet with these guys to go over. The state of Connecticut would love for us to do it. Scariff would love for us to do it. The only other town that I know of around is Stonington, and they've been doing it for about 15 years. But East Lyme was one of the first ones that did it, and we got rid of it.
We don't make policy here. I'm just trying to understand what the budget implications
Well,
might be
Board of
if you
Select-
were to re-implement it.
But if you guys wanted to make up, I understand that, and thank you for, the Board of Selectmen makes the policy, but if you guys if this board wants to have that savings, then you guys would be behind Board of Selectmen, because Board of Selectmen would take a lot of heat to go for the bag. So if the Board of Finance is behind it, says, Board of Finance, hey, you Board of Selectmen, we want you to do this because we don't have the funds, then it will be more successful than just saying the Board of Selectmen, because I'm just saying what other towns, Montville just tried to go through it, and New London just tried to go through it last year.
So maybe it's an offline discussion we can have as part of this, budget process.
Absolutely.
I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole, but it'd be nice to know, what the projected savings might be if we were to implement it, even as a pilot.
It's probably about 400,000 or 500,000, but yes, we can get into that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just one quick clarification. An indication of how lean and how actually on point your budget is, just some quick calculations. In 25-26, over the course of the year, a taxpayer would pay $450, for your services. In 26-27 in the budget, it's going up to $484. So it's like $33 for getting an awful lot in return. So you've really got a very cost-effective budget going here.
Thank you.
All right.
I do have, if you guys are done with this, and then I have the building
We're
maintenance
going
is
to
next.
sewers next.
Yeah, so the next one is, and this one is a lot quicker. I know you guys got a lot. Oh. The other one is department, I say 113, that was the old number, but you guys look at it as 105-4325, maintenance of town buildings.
Yep, got it.
Happy to say, this one is up 0.29%. It did have a $30,000 cut from the Board of Selectmen, but that was something that I suggested with Kevin because our numbers for the biggest, besides the custodians, which I'll get into exactly who's what, the biggest line in here is electricity. So this is the electricity for all the buildings. It's for this building, the community center, and all those buildings. Last year, fiscal year 24-25, as is in probably your own electric bills at your house, there was that public demand bill that was going out at crazy. That seems to kind of settled on our bill, so it looked like we were trending in a better direction, so we were able to cut 30,000 out of this line, which actually got this line down to 0.29. The custodians make up at 2.75 exactly, so this is for a custodian. We have a 30-hour custodian here at the town hall. We have 2 custodians, a morning and an evening one at the community center. It's our busiest building by far. We have a 30-hour person at the police station, public safety building. And then we have a facilities coordinator and if you ever, there's a guy, Robbie Morgan, I don't know if you ever met him, but he's the assistant facility coordinator. He just does projects all around, and if you go around the community center, he's done fabulous things. I mean, they swear by him. He's tremendous value of all the things he's doing to maintain the buildings. The overtime line looks high, the 10%. The reason being is when we were in this current year, we were in was the first year of a union contract. So last year the budget was flat, and then Kevin put dollars into as far as the amended budget. You can see it right in the first line. The adopted budget for 26 was 311, and the amended was 223. That was the money that was brought over from the union negotiations. Nothing was bumped up to the overtime, and when you give people more money and they're getting overtime, that line goes up. So that's why that line, it's not like we're putting in any more hours. This is for the coverage at the community center on the weekends. We have a custodian there 8 hours on Saturdays and 4 hours on Sundays. The library's not open all year round on Sunday. It's closes in the summer. So the building maintenance line is up 5,000. That line is under tremendous pressure, and we do the best we can of just, I mean, we have a lot of buildings, and this is all the enhancements, all the repairs. It's a necessary evil. Service contracts, just like I was saying, the zero, but I just build up every single service contract. I don't take that line and say, oh, let's bump it up 5%. Like, I look every single contract, where are we at with that contract? We're bidding out some of the contracts right now for pest control and stuff like that, but and then what, generators, fire alarm testing, fire alarms, burglar alarms, HVAC contracts, elevator contract for public safety buildings, sprinkler testing, pest control. So all those things added up to an increase. Good news, in some ways, we have very favorable propane contract. The heating line is only up, I say only up 9,000, but it could be up a lot more. But almost all the town buildings, field safety building, the public safety building, town hall, and the old highway garage are all on propane. And we have contract with like $1.37, it's super cheap. We have natural gas at the community center. The only buildings we have left on fuel oil, which is it gets to be the pricier fuel, are the fire stations. And that's also speculative too, the heating, because that line got cut into this year. Like you were mentioning some of the things the 2 things I cut last year was salt and for the roads and heating, and that didn't work out so well. But those are some winters you do well, some, so it's almost like you're taking a gamble. But if you take a gamble on a winter like this, then we're gonna have to make it up somewhere else, and we're trying to make it up so we don't come back to the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance to ask for more money. So this one was quicker, if you have any questions.
Questions from the board? Okay. Any questions from anybody?
The only observation I'll make here is just to put this in perspective that 25, 26, the median taxpayer paid about $98 a year for this. This year they're going to pay $105. So it's a very small increase on the individual taxpayer.
Okay. Is that after the latest cut?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's based upon your figure, the 1014250.
Okay.
Any other comments,
I'm doing
questions?
on that number, not this number.
Okay.
Can I do that? Just quickly.
So Scott, capital projects, Joe is the chairman of the capital project committee. I put that at the end if you wanted to move that up or.
Do I need to make a motion?
I don't know how we've done in the past, Rich, or Warren.
If you have an agenda, we
We're deviating from the agenda. We
probably
have to
need
move
to
Yeah.
I'll just
move
go
it
to
Right,
up.
so somebody needs to move to
It's easy enough to make a
take the
motion.
new business budget review item A7, capital projects, and move it up so it can go next, right after Public Works has completed.
Second.
I can't make that motion.
Oh,
You
I-
take it.
so moved. Sorry.
Second.
Moved and seconded to move up the capital projects discussion. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 6-0. Capital projects, go.
So what I'd like to do is, and I appreciate two of your members were active participants, I just want to give you an overview of what happened, and we can get into specific projects, but I think it's helpful.
There's two working groups. I just passed them on earlier.
I know,
Kim, might be
Kim.
under your budget
Yeah,
also.
I got them, I got them.
Cool. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
And I have talking points, I can give them, I can make copies if you guys have, but it was just a few things. I just want to quickly go over, and Lauren was there and Barry was there, but just so the whole board knew what happened, because it was, the SIP, this is the second year, I believe, of this SIP committee, and we started meeting on January 13th with two members from the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and the Board of Ed, totaling 9 members. At the first meeting, I was actually voted chairman, so that's why I'm here talking. But I was voted chairman as a resident of the town, not as I'm a department head. We jumped right in and heard from all the departments that were putting in CIPs. We had the police and fire and emergency management go on January 20th. There was just a lot of condensed. The committee toured on the 22nd of January. We toured the community center. We toured the Samuel Smith House. We toured Bridebrook Park with the bathrooms. We went down to McCook Seawall. We went to Nyack River Boardwalk, and we ended up at the Nyack Fire Station. On January 27th, we went to Parks. Parks and Rec and Public Works gave their CIPs. And then we finished up with the government, general government on January 29th. And IT and the Board of Ed went on February 3rd. After that meeting, Kevin Gervais and Dan Cunningham kind of went over the town's debt load, which is near and dear to this board, obviously, as far as what, before we get into what we're cutting, we need to know where we're at. They gave a projection, and at the time, the list that the committee was given, the CIP, there was $11.7 million worth of projects. We were given kind of walking orders, marching orders to try to get down to $7 million, so we had to cut $4.7 million. So I'm very proud of the committee. We came up with a process. We figured out, we went through every single project. We talked about every project. It's important for you guys to know, and the two members that were on it, but we vetted every single project. We talked about everyone. We went over every project. And what we did is we voted it out. So every project, so we have a motion to remove it from the coming year. Discussion, and then, and it was pretty, it was a lengthy meeting. We went through the whole list, but if we had any reservations or we thought we really would like to keep something, we didn't cut it. If we thought that there might be a need to, say, partially fund something, we let it go. We kept it in there. And then we went back, and the first night that we did this, we cut $2.7 million. So we got from 11.7 to 9. We had another meeting, and that's when we started getting into the nitty-gritty of really trying to get down, and we went, then that was our 8th meeting. So we started on January 13th. We met again on February 9th, so in a matter of 3 weeks' time in our 8th meeting, and we went from the 9 million to 7 million. So there was a lot of collaboration, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of vetting. I think whether the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance should be happy to know that Every project was given a lot of thought and a lot of discussion. Everything was given an opportunity. And now you're sitting in front of you a list, which is that the list that they have. So you have a list in front of you, and it shows, I'm assuming, that with a list of 11.7 started, we're sitting at 6.99 million. Then Kevin Gervais had talked about trying to, bump up the cash capital so that, we don't have to bond all these things. But so that's the projects that are there now. The last thing, so that this board is aware, and then if you have any specific questions on or on projects of Public Works, I can talk about. The second task of that CIP committee, the first one was to get a list of projects for this coming year, for fiscal year 26-27. The second task is to try to get a 5-year plan, because at the town meeting in early May, the only thing that's voted on is actually the 5-year CIP plan. So we're in the process now of trying to do that. We already met once, and we're trying to come back to see, because that 5-year capital plan is also a planning tool for this board and for Kevin to try to figure out future bonding and future debt load. So that's what I kind of want to go over, is just what the process, so you all knew how we came together. It was a very effective group, and we're sitting here now with $7 million of projects that we think are really, we really try to keep to the musts. The nice to haves and the pretty, would be great to haves didn't make the cut, but everyone I think came. Board of Ed was voting to cut their projects. I was voting to cut Public Works projects. We were trying to all come together to kind of come to the bottom line, because we all knew that we had to get to a number. Should I go over the ones?
Yeah, they have both copies.
Yeah, I can just quickly touch on the Public Works ones, because I am the Public Works Director, but I'm not sure.
So just before you do,
Okay.
do we need him to go over any of the details of what they have cut and what they have not cut? Are we satisfied with just looking at it ourselves? Or would you like to hear his presentation?
I would like to just focus on the list before us.
So if you want to just look at what got through, okay with you?
I mean, there were 2 people from this committee that
Yeah.
participated, so if there's any concern, hopefully we can have that discussion.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe just focus on what made the cut.
Okay. It seems, there's smaller items, but like the big ticket items, the police chief, Chief Glenn, really was the one that was the champion of the town-wide radio communication system. There was a lot of talk back and forth of getting to the state radio system. He originally put in 1.5. That was actually one of our last cuts, to drop from 1.5 million to 1.365. But that's what's that? 20% of the whole number. So that's a big big number there. There's the ADA website redesign is required. You're supposed to have certain features in a website. The town matches we looked at for the Samuel Smith. The town does own that building, and whenever you can get a grant that can match and leverage money, so long as it works in the town funds, it made a lot of sense to do these things that were critical to that building. The committee did tour those buildings. And then the last one, the last one on the top, general government assessment reval, that's just a number that every year is a plug and chug, 75,000. So there's certain numbers in here that we just have to carry, and that's one of them. IT, we vetted all these different items in IT. The IT director, Dan Cleary, went over. We definitely tightened up some of these numbers to make them, get lower. The public safety building server replacement is probably the biggest number on there, 366. We just had a server on fire there just recently. There's a huge need for the servers at the PD. And then the last one on here, of any consequence, 70,000 for town hall cameras. The cameras in this building and at the community center are archaic, and from a public safety, all the schools have cameras. We actually had 2 vehicles stolen out of this parking lot, and then nothing taped because the cameras weren't working. They have money, they collect a lot of money in here, and they have been concerned, so we're trying to upgrade the community. The hard part about cameras, it's not like you go to, as I understand, you don't go like Walmart or Best Buy and get, these are like very specific cameras that have to go back to the cost is going back to the public safety building so they can monitor them. That's what drives up the cost of these. So they originally asked for 80, but last year the committee approved 10,000 to harden the tax collector office. So we took that 10,000 because they really need cameras over there. They don't need a lot of they don't need bulletproof vests, bulletproof glass in there. They need cameras so that we can monitor what's going on there. The police vehicles, 170,000. That's 2 vehicles with all the outfitting. Then they have, we heard stories of the rifles. I don't want to even get into it, but they need new rifles. They were using their own. Regional tactical team. All these things are just things that police departments need. The bigger number, the fire service, the recapitalization of the ladder was also a big, I mean, there's certain big chunk numbers, that's 600. We really try to squeeze the fire chief, see if we can get down to 500, or it just comes down to if we don't do this, we're going to be buying a new ladder truck in the next few years. So this will extend the life of it for 15 years. So from a value standpoint, Waterford was trying to do something similar, but they were spending about 200,000, but they were thinking that they were going to have to buy a new ladder in 2-3 years. So this extends the need to buy that ladder. When it gets in firefighting equipment, is something that's the turnout gear and all the stuff that they typically need. From Public Works, for the last bunch of years, been here 12, we've been putting money aside every year to do the roads. That number is kind of the number that it's allowing us to keep up with the roads so they don't start going downhill, because if we start doing that, we're really going to be getting behind the 8 ball. It's usually 850, but because it was such a tough year, we dropped that to 750. But that would be, we already have a low road. We've been doing a lot of the roads around town, but we haven't done anything in the beach area, Crescent Beach, Black Point, Giants Neck. And those roads are starting to get age where they need some love. We're not going to go full out paving. We're trying to do cost-effective paving solutions, pavement management. We're looking to do rubberized chip seal, which is very cost-effective. It allows you to spread more money around the town and keep the roads in better shape. Town, I talked about, we had sidewalk, 17 miles of sidewalk. That 50,000 just fixes the ones that are like settling and stuff like that. That doesn't put any new sidewalks. That does, after we do our inspections, that allows us to fix 200 feet of sidewalk. And we go in and we slice when the sidewalks kind of have differential settlement, we slice them so that no one trips. That's the sidewalks. Fairhaven Road Bridge. The one thing, when I said in the presentation about these projects, the federally funded projects for Colony Road and for Fairhaven, Fairhaven is such a large project. The only downside of those projects is they're reimbursement projects, so we have to fund. So if the contractor sends us a $2 million invoice, we have to pay it and then immediately put it back to the state to pay us back. So we can get away with that in the Colony Road because it's like $3-4 million, and it will be spread out over 9 months. Fairhaven Road is supposed to be, they're telling us it's going to be $10 to $12 million. So if we have a bill for $3 million and he doesn't have the money out of the general fund to be doing it, we have to have some money to carry for interest. So that's what that is. I talked about what the value of when the garbage is, the cost of the garbage is that we're disposing it, but I said something to the can itself. So if someone needs a can, if you call up and they need a can and it's destroyed, you have to pay $110. We can't collect revenue, but we had to buy new cans. I don't have the cost of cans in our operating budget. They get bought in CIP. So that's like an offsetting revenue, that $23,000. But you can't buy like 10 cans at a time. Usually to get a more cost-effective price, you got to buy half a truckload. So that's the $23,000. And we do that every 2 years. We have a few pieces of equipment. The loader at the transfer station, it's getting so old we had to dump $21,000 into it to limp it along for the next, until we can get a new one, and it proved valuable because that was one of the pieces of equipment that was cleaning up the downtown and all the other stuff. So that piece is on life support, and we need it. The wheeled excavator is a tremendous value. We have an excavator, but this one would give us the ability to do a lot more things with our construction crew, and it's a backup to our mower. It's really essential for our operations. Plan stem rebuild. I told you we had a $500 steep grant. We're putting that job out to bid next week. If it comes in at 560, we had 500,000 for the thing, but we need the extra 60. It could come at 470, so I could tell you that we don't need that money, but if it comes over 500, we need to pay for it, so that's where that money is. Plant stem. The HVAC renovations is a capital non-recurring account that we put money in, so I don't have budgets in there, so like if an air handler at the community center breaks, they're all like 10 to 20 to 30,000 for the air handlers up there. So what we do is we put the CNRE account and we put money into it. It's like a bucket of money, and then that money you can then fix the unit instead of having to come in front and do a special appropriation. That account's down to like $6,000 because of all the things we've had to use. So we had to put a little more money to fund it. The municipal. Some of these are municipal building repair improvements, the LoCIP. That 50,000 does all the little CIP improvements, all these buildings this is state funds, so that's not taxpayer dollar. LoCIP funds is state dollars, but it has one of the main provisions of LoCIP is it has to be in the capital plan, so that's why it's there. The ELCC, ADA, and other improvements. There's a lot of things at the community center. We just did the improvements here, but the bathrooms aren't. There's some ADA accessibility issues in the bathrooms at community centers. They're the original bathrooms from 33 years old. We've done a lot of things to fix that building, but we're also trying to. There's an emergency door that has to go in the library. We're trying to do some improvements out back, and the members from this board heard the whole discussion of all the things, and they toured it to know where those dollars would be going. The fire stations, all 3 fire stations, the boilers are on life support, and they really need to be replaced. So that's another project that we were trying to do for LoCIP. And then the last one for LoCIP is the Nyack River Boardwalk. So when you go down on the bay side, that boardwalk, we're trying to replace the decking with a composite decking that, because right now the pressure treated wood is getting pretty shot. The Parks and Rec had 4 pieces of equipment. We cut it to 2. It's the Contour rotary mower. That's their power mower. It's like a 12-foot deck or something like that. But that's the one they use at Brybrook. The beach groomer was a piece of, I think they said it was a piece they got from the military or something like that. It's like really, really old, the one they had.
In 2005, it was refurbished.
Okay, refurbished. So 21 years ago it was refurbished. The Parks and Rec asked for 75 for the park improvement plan. We gave them 50. They asked for 150 for the bleacher replacement. We gave them 50, 50, and 50. So we said we give it 50 this year. Do 50,000 worth of. This is for the bleachers down at the youth football field down by the middle school. And then the Board of Ed has their, which is actually a pretty low number for the Board of Ed as far as projects that they could put in. But the big nut there is the 500,000 for technology that they've been doing. We talked to them. We got them some concessions on some of the roof work they were doing. So that's how we got down to $7 million. It was a lot of work. If there's any questions.
Just speaking as a member of the committee, the process was really very engaging to participate in, because almost everybody that came through with requests engaged truthfully, like in a discussion about this is really what we would like to have, here's what we would need to have, and a lot of these cuts came from the budget requesters to say we can cut this much money out and end on this title figure. So there was a lot of great back and forth on this, participation of the town committees, and they kept looking at this in terms of what's the impact upon the median taxpayer in the town. It's going to be about $600 a year of a $10,000 tax bill that they would have. So it's a good perspective in terms of what we're getting for this.
Can I just touch on one item real quick? Okay, so at the bottom of your work paper, for those that are looking at home, how does this relate into the operating budget, right? How does the capital projects and operating tie together? So if you So right here, we'll just look at the bottom of the work paper. So you're looking at $6,999,720 of capital projects. It's broken down in 10, 20, 5-year, and then paid for cash. So you can see the funding sources here. We break it down a little further. So this year, if everything was approved as is, we're bonding for $6.2 million. Cash capital will be about $760,000. Scrolling a little further down, let's break down the cash capital piece. $760,000 in cash capital. Of that $760,000, $520,000 is offset from the state of Connecticut. $240,000 would be truly cash capital, and then $290,000 would also be lease payments. Right, so just so the board knows, the town was doing annual leases for some of the vehicles and maintenance equipment, things like that. 2 years ago, we stopped that. They're 5-year rolling leases, so we still have 3 more years to go, right, before that $290,000 can slowly drop down, right? So, so that $1,055,000, if we tie back to the front work paper here, that number is the cash capital piece you see on the front work paper there. That $6.2 million is what we are bonding, right? So last discussion we had, that's why I'm just going to highlight this real quick. We're bonding for $6.2 million. We're paying off less than $5 million, adding $1.2 plus million to the debt load, right? So is that just wanted, so everyone was aware, even with our efforts to try to pull us out of this debt spiral, we're making steps in the right direction by increasing that cash capital. But if we do that $50,000 a year, it'll take 20 years to increase that by $1 million, right? So we got a $1.2 million hole. So about 24 years from now, if we do 50,000, we'll finally be break even, right? Retirement age at that point, I think, for me. So I just wanted to share that piece with the board. Switch cameras so you guys can be on screen.
Just one question. The line for replacing fire station boilers, you mentioned the fire stations were the only ones that were still on oil.
Yeah.
Would these still be oil boilers, or is there a way to convert?
We're going through the process of putting that together. I can't exactly answer that for you, but that was what we were going to do, but we'll look at all options, the most effective option for those buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say other questions. Go ahead, please.
So Kevin, could you maybe help us, or at least help me understand, like what rationale or criteria you use to determine we would pay for an item by cash versus the other funding?
It just comes down to availability of resources to some degree. So I start with the smallest projects. Ideally, anything under $100,000 should probably be paid for in cash. If we did that, we'd be at the $2.2 million mark roughly. So then I just went, highest in order from highest and which lasts the longest for bonding. So like when you look at the 20-year bond, there's only one. It's the radio communication. We're expecting that to last at least 20 years. You look at the 10-year HVAC recapitalization at the high school and the middle school, roof life extension project. I imagine those will last longer. And then when you go to the 5-year, all the equipment and maintenance items that normally would have been that cash capital, the lease, which we would have paid for, in the lease. The loader's probably sitting there. Some garbage trucks, pickup trucks, things like that. Those can kind of go between that 5 and 10 year. But ideally, if it was, if everything was in a perfect world, anything less than 100 million, like if you go to Parks and Rec, you look at this, let me share my screen real quick here, PIP, all these items right here, 50,000, bleacher replacement 50,000, all these should be cash capital, right? And if you look at Waterford, which I know has a glowing nuclear reactor, which pays millions of dollars towards their capital projects, when I talked to my counterpart over there, Kim Allen, the director of finance for Waterford, they're paying for that $2-point-something million fire truck in 2 years. So they're revitalizing it this year. They're hoping it lasts 2 to 3 years, and then they're buying another new one. They're in a lot better shape debt speak. So let me just pass this out real quick. This kind of goes hand in hand with this little municipal comparison worksheet I did. So Rich, if you just want to take one down, pass it around. So if you want to give one to you and one to Dan. So to tie this all together, let me just pull up my municipal comparison worksheet for those at home to see what we're looking at. So I updated this municipal spreadsheet. I'll make sure everyone has a copy of it first. And so this is our third year doing this now, comparing us to towns around us, towns within our DERG, towns that are similar in size. You can see the population. So, I mean, there's some towns, Salem obviously doesn't compare, population-wise, but it's our neighbor to the north. So it's towns geographically located close to us, and also, that the state lumps us in our DERG D. So when we look at these, we're at the bottom here. Board of Ed, we're spending about 65.5% on the Board of Ed, about 26% on town operations. Debt, we're at 7.5%. Cash capital, we're at 1%. How do we compare to our peers? The peers in this group spend 60% on the Board of Ed, so we're about 5.5% higher there. We're about 5% lower on the town side. We're 2% higher on debt, and we are 1.5% lower on cash capital. The one town this board's heard me say before, I kind of look as our poster child for fiscal health. Just in this aspect, I haven't done a full analysis, but just when you compare us to this, Madison, last year was a $100 million budget, 65%, roughly the same size on the Board of Ed side, little more on the town side, but look at that debt and cash difference. Debt under 3%, cash capital 5%. They're putting $5 million a year towards their cash capital, and that's why their debt is less than $3 million, right? And you look down to us, $1 million in cash capital, $7 million of debt. That's still spiraling out of control. We haven't solved that problem, right? So that in Madison, for those at home listening, and for the board, that's a DERG B town, right? They have a higher grand list. But it's a shoreline community, roughly the same size with 18,000 people. They're just doing that debt versus cash capital a little better than we are at the moment. So, and then just for those looking, how does the East Lyme 2027 budget compare to this as well? You can see the Board of Ed, current where it stands, we're dropping under the 65%, still higher than our peers. Coming up in that town operations line, right, because you're increasing fire service, police department, IT, things like that. And then the debt load's going down just because the budget, is going up more than that debt. But still 7% debt service. Cash capital is actually decreasing by percentage, right, because the budget is growing quicker than we're growing the cash capital line. Cash capital was growing at 5%, the budget's at 7%. Right? Anyone have any questions with that? This is just like a quick little snapshot of how we're comparing directly to our neighbors.
Yeah, I appreciate your work on this. And even though the power plant is glowing away, Waterford still has a debt of 7.25 and capital of 1.71. So they seem to be even more skewed than us. Or about the same.
Yeah. So it's not not everything's perfect,
Right.
but when you look, and the other departments will come before you and discuss it, but Waterford has 53 police officers, I believe it is, or either 53 or 57. They're in the 50s. So we're trying to get to 30, and then 31. Waterford has 7 firefighters on a shift. We have 4. So, those are, some that when you look at that town operations line of $40 million for the same number of residents, roughly. And then there's not many more services they're doing than we're doing, and there's a $15 million gap there. So, just throwing things out there. But, so.
Kevin, may I ask, are you comfortable as the town's finance guru that everything on this list truly meets the definition of capital. The things I'm curious about would be the description of the recycling cans, particularly if we're paying for them, but then there's revenue coming in to offset that. That doesn't sound like capital to me. I'm also very curious about any time I see component recapitalization on any type of schedule. There are strict accounting rules around whether that can be capitalized or not, and also capital leases.
Yeah, so we're done with the leasing, but I think I would, if I was to equate this, so it sounds like the stucco in the living room's kind of falling apart a little bit, but the house is on fire, right? The debt serve, where this budget currently presents still $1.3 million debt spiral we're getting ourselves in.
Oh, I haven't got to my question
Oh,
on
yeah,
that.
but-
I'm just asking if you're comfortable from an accounting standpoint that everything on this list meets the definition of capital. Because that's the first
No,
scrub.
the long one. The single, there's some, is there any particular that you were kind of looking at?
Well, I had mentioned, and it's a small dollar amount, but the recycling cans, because the description was we buy them and then there's an offset in revenue as people pay for those. That doesn't sound like capital.
So, I hear what you're saying now. So some of these, the majority of these are capital. Some of these are more reserves, right? So prime example, very similar to that. That assessment reval, we're putting $75,000 away. We do that every 5 years. It's for either it's between $250 and $350, depending on what kind of scope of reval we're doing. But is it truly a capital project? No. But that's how municipalities have been doing it. Mike Popham, our auditor who listens to these calls, don't start skewering my capital projects list. But like the recycling cans, we could move it in the general fund. The problem is it's lumpy. So you won't see this again for a year or two. And then you'll see, the public works budget will have a spike of 23,000 of, trash cans. So it's a cyclicality thing on that particular item. But I think in the last 2 years we've done a good job of scrubbing this of like the AutoCAD software subscriptions, softwares. We've moved out of this if they're not truly implemented. Some ones we did have a discussion at the CIP level of dispatch chairs. Is that a CIP item or is that more of just housekeeping? I had a threshold in my head for capital projects of $5,000 really, because if you look at some smaller departments like the registrars, right? The registrars wanted 2 new desks. It's like $4,400. Would that be a capital project? No. But would that fly in the operating budget? No as well. So sometimes there's a few items that need a home, and if they're truly one-off without having the budgets up and down, capital projects where they end up sometimes.
My experience is that most organizations, though, define what the capital threshold is, 5,000, 10,000, 25,000. And if it's multiple items, then it's 10 items up to 60,000.
Yep.
So do we have that level of criteria?
We have a capital asset policy for actually depreciating assets.
But
for the capital project request, we do as well, and we tried tying those together, and that was our initial. Stand by. Give me 1 second. We do have a CIP committee. This was actually one of our conversations we had at the CIP level. Someone's phone's going off. Just trying to put it up. Oh, I'm sorry. I think this might be the wrong one. So there's a scope to this committee, and we did have, it was about a $20,000 threshold expenditures meet this definition, cost less than 25,000, include the annual operating. Did we end up changing this?
We changed the sheet, but we talked about changing it.
Yeah.
See, well, but, okay, so if it's $25,000 is your capital threshold, there's a whole bunch of stuff on this list that's not capital then.
We talked about that, and I think you showed me this, but we talked about
Yeah.
dropping it to 5.
Correct. Yeah, I think there was an understanding at the CIP level, Barry. Do you-
Right, we had a long discussion about what it exactly is, and I think what we did was hold it off for this year, put it in, and we have a document that I remember that you came out, that we're kind of like trying to revise to set the policy very specifically for next year, you know, because I think it arose around those dispatcher chairs for the police department.
Correct.
Whether or not they were actually a capital expenditure, and for many reasons, we just said, let's just hold it with this year, and we'll come up with a firm policy for next year, because we were not that specific and detailed on the policy for this year.
But you have to have I would think the auditor
Mhm.
would want, regardless of whether the 25,000 is the threshold for this year or you kick the can to next year, there has to be a capital threshold for this year. So what is it?
For
Per existing
For the
policy.
capital project request or the capital project depreciations, because those are two separate things. So the auditor doesn't
So
look
you-
at the capital
well,
project.
the audit,
The auditor's not going to look at
we-
the capital project request. They're going to look at capitalized items in the fixed asset schedule.
they're gonna look that your capital policy defines the dollar amount for what you consider an item to be capitalizable. That's not the right
Yeah,
word. So what is that dollar amount?
So all these items aren't going to be capitalized. There's a capital outlay test that has to be done item by item, whether it'll actually be a capitalized item on the depreciation schedule. So just because an item's on this list doesn't mean it's on a capital asset list. Those are two separate things. So we
But
have a
this is
capital
the capital,
projects budget. Yes, those are separate things. So this policy for the capital improvement program is $25,000. There's a whole separate capital asset policy that was voted on by this board. I just think we're mixing two things, so let me just pull that one up real quick. Hold on here. It's not pulling up.
I mean, does anyone else want to comment on this? Usually organizations have a definition of what dollar amount makes something capital or an operating expense. I'm just asking for what the town's dollar amount is, your capital item threshold, or some nomenclature that the auditor would look at.
We actually have a, one second.
But it should be 5,000 for a single item or X amount of dollars for X amount of items. Like this is, I'm pretty confident that this is like a fundamental accounting principle.
Kevin, is this something that's like retrievable?
Yeah,
on the-
so our financial statements list out $5,000.
For a single item.
For a single item.
Okay, so the $7,000 for chairs then would not be capital. Like right, unless your policy says or multiple items at $7,000.
Correct, and the chairs would not be depreciated, but they'd still be on this capital projects list. So, capital assets and capital projects are not the same thing. Capital assets are assets that we depreciate on the books. Capital projects, I know it's just a word difference between project and assets, but say we put, last year we had, there was 6 fire vehicles that needed new tires. since we were doing all 6 vehicles at the same time, I think it was a $40,000 or $50,000 request for a one-time expenditure. We made that a capital project, just so it didn't blow the fire department budget, but none of those tires were depreciated as a capital asset. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I don't think from an accounting standpoint it makes sense, but
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, we can, I'll show you that there's 3 policies we have right now on these. There's one in the financial statements, there's one the Board of Finance adopted as a capital asset policy within the last year, and then there's the CIP committee. So we have to kind of mold all 3 of those together.
And the auditors have had no management comments on any of that.
They've kind of had bigger fish to fry as far as timeliness of the audits on this. But last year, one of our audit items was the capital assets. We invested in new capital asset software, and we had to rename every capital asset going back to 1919, I think. So that was one of our bigger projects we took on.
All right. In the spirit of moving us along, is there concerns that you can maybe address offline with Kevin
Certainly.
further? Thank you. Are any further questions on the capital projects budget? Proof? All right. Thanks, Jim. All right, so we are through 2 of the items under budget reviews. Next one up, Kevin, if you are ready,
All right.
is Finance Department.
All right. Okay, diving into the finance department. So just to talk about what the finance department does at a high level, the general fund, accounting, as well as water and sewer and other special revenue funds. We're responsible for accounts payable, accounts receivable, treasury management, weekly payroll, capital projects reporting, grant reporting, budgetary management, ensuring our purchasing policies followed. We do annual bond ratings. We compile the official statement for the town's bonds, manage debt service, pension administration, the annual financial statement audits. We are the insurance point of contact, the risk manager, probate court regional administrator, as well as the finance director and finance office for the water and sewer departments. On a daily basis, the finance department monitors for fraud alerts on our bank accounts, which we did have in 2022 to the tune of $100,000 stolen from our accounts. Vendor inquiries, whether it's payment related or receiving payments, time entry and accrual issues for payroll, RFP issuance and follow-up, requisition approvals, which is purchase order systems. Weekly basis, we have to make sure every employee is paid in town. We make sure we send out vendor payments dispersed through checks at the moment, monthly and quarterly, bank reconciliations, debt service payments, federal state reporting, and then our municipal finance advisory committee meetings that the first selectman and I attend. On an annual basis, we're responsible for the audits, debt issuance, rating, bond ratings, operating capital budgets, as well as pension and OPEB administration. Accomplishments of the finance office in the last 2 years. We've implemented purchase cards that the state of Connecticut rolled out. We've established a grants fund. We went from carbon copy timesheets for payroll to a fully integrated ADP system. We've upgraded our MCSJ accounting system to one of the better systems, Munis, and just continue to bring in best practices to the finance office. Well, we've established a fund balance policy at the Board of Finance level recently, as well as a capital assets policy. We've updated software to include Sage Fixed Assets. Prior to that, we had an antiquated system that failed and was unrecoverable, and that led to a delay in last year's audits while we reestablished our fixed assets. Spearheaded the reestablishment of the CIP committee. That led to approximately $5 million of cuts this past year. Other accomplishments, Mitch Nixon, our Deputy Finance Director, became a certified purchasing agent, which the town did not have before then. This will centralize purchasing and adherence to the purchasing policy. Just recently, we've had all town department heads and purchasers sign an acknowledgement form. God bless you, Barry. An acknowledgement form that they've read and agreed to our purchasing policy. We are also developing monthly, quarterly, and year-end closeout procedures to make the audits and closeouts quicker. Coastal Resiliency Fund has been established within the last year that will allow East Lyme to set aside funds to address coastal resiliency issues and projects going forward. There's a hazard mitigation committee that will oversee those projects. In the past, since November, we've been RFPing our banking services, and we can say we have established relationships with Chelsea Groton Bank and JP Morgan. Our goal for the upcoming year is to streamline AP and checks using JP Morgan's new system. So the goal is no checks written out of the finance office, so we won't be losing batches of checks, and that'll ensure quicker payments for our vendors, as well as a reduced risk profile. So one item to touch upon that was a real big lift last year was payroll. So August 2022, we had these carbon copy timesheets, the whites, the yellows, and the pink sheets you can see up in the top right. January 1st, 2022, before I started, the town contracted with UKG, which is Novatime. That was right before I started. We signed a 5-year contract. That was not implemented when I started. We implemented that. We went live with it the following spring. From what it sounds like, the initial sale of the product made it seem like it was going to be a good bridge between our current accounting system and the time and attendance system. It turned out it was only a one-way bridge, so accruals and things, there wasn't a reconciliation done between the two systems. That would have required a weekly accrual reconciliation between the two systems to make sure nothing was missed. It just wasn't feasible, and it wasn't a very good system. So what did we do? As our contract was starting to sunset, we contacted some other payroll providers and ultimately chose ADP to streamline as an all-in-one processor. So everything in red down here, setting up special codes, multi-jurisdiction support, there's so many things that now we're able to streamline by switching to ADP. So this year was probably the best year for W-2s going out the door, and we're hoping it only gets easier after this. So ADP, well, there's obviously hiccups in every system, integrating and switching over systems. We are really, payroll was processed, say, at 2 p.m. So Monday, 2 p.m., payroll was out the door. So we're excited to see what kind of efficiencies we can create in the rest of the department. Other opportunities for streamlining, as mentioned, the payroll position, so I guess the discussion is the payroll clerk will be transitioning to an accounting coordinator position. UPSU, as of last Friday, I believe, actually signed the MOA. We have a signed MOA now, so the payroll position is no longer. It is now that accounting coordinator role. ADP will be the main priority of this position. However, with the new system, showing efficiencies, we're also looking to transfer bank reconciliations and some other month-end duties to this individual. As part of this reshuffling of the finance office, the accounts receivable clerk will be reduced from the 37.5 hours to approximately 24 to 28 hours starting July 1st. This particular employee, been a long-standing member of the finance department, is looking to, is looking for that reduced workload, but will maintain benefits until the retirement of that position. Once that particular person retires, we're not quite sure what the composition of that department will look like, if that job will just be overall eliminated or what will happen there. Something else to report, we do have a part-time accountant that is outside of the union that works approximately 16 to 20 hours a week. When that person retires, that job will also be sunsetting, rolling into that accounting coordinator role. And just a little caveat here, Investing in newer systems increases the town operations effectiveness, creates efficiencies. So far, with our new implementation of ADP and Munis, this will reduce essentially one full-time equivalent out of this office. So just a head count of the finance office, myself, I'm split 60% general fund, 20% water, 20% sewer. My deputy/purchasing agent is 37.5 hours to the town budget. We have an elected treasurer and a deputy treasurer. With accounts payable, 37.5 hours. Accounts receivable now down to 28 hours. The payroll position now transferred over to an accounting coordinator, 37.5 hours. That part-time accountant we're looking to close upon retirement. And then we also have an outside accountant to assist in audit preparation until we catch up on that. And then we can reduce the hours there. Tasks still to complete, OPEB trust. So we have not currently established an OPEB trust just yet. We are pay-as-you-go. The town does have a approximately $3 million liability referring to OPEB. If anyone's curious what OPEB stands for, other post-employment benefits, essentially health insurance for retirees. Right, that's the big one there. Ordinance change for the pension board, just a slight revision to include the oversight of the defined contribution plans, as well as anticipating that OPEB trust. Developing a strategic or some sort of long-term plan. Just throwing out a name, East Lyme 36, something to kind of give us a vision into the future, right? What can we look at 10 years from now? What is our debt projections going to be? Cash management, capital projects to reduce the impact. So what are we doing there? Those are things we still have to work on. More projects down the pipeline. Consolidation of revenue collection. This is a big one that's happening all across Connecticut right now. There is an effort to not consolidate, to consolidate collections of a town into the tax collector's office, rename them revenue collector. The tax collector is a bonded individual in the town. They're collecting 80% of the town's revenue. Why not also collect a piece of the water and sewer payments as well? So that's something we're looking to discuss in the future. Other options, other things to streamline, as previously mentioned, accounts payable disbursements. This will be our big focus this upcoming year. Just in the past year, we've lost 2 batches of checks, approximately 150 checks. The fallout for losing these checks, and when I say losing, they were delivered to the post office. Post office lost them in transit from when they got them to when they were delivered. One of the batches, it was 90 in one and 60 checks in the other. The one with 60 it was October. It was out for the whole month of October, essentially. We waited until, I think, November 1st or 2nd or whatever it was to reissue the checks. The old checks showed up with the new checks. People deposited both checks. We're getting return check fees, bounce check fees. It was such a nightmare. That's really why we spearheaded streamlining AP to just go electronically, right? We already have purchase cards, so a lot of departments have been purchasing things on those purchase cards. We've seen a ramp up in expenditures on the purchase cards, so this is the next piece of that. Modernized with ACH capabilities, and just make sure you have a good, robust, double check system to make sure you're paying the right people through ACH. Other things we have to focus on: updating the purchasing policy. Updating the capital assets policy, or at least acknowledging that policy. Review a debt policy. To the best of my knowledge, I haven't really seen a debt policy. Review the fund balance policy to make sure that's still up to date. Month-end closeout procedures, quarter-end, year-end. And then also the one thing we haven't touched upon, really, internal auditing. We're still trying to catch up on our audits. We really haven't had time to do an internal audit procedures yet. But once we start getting caught up, anticipating the next month or so to have that 24 audit done, or at least a draft copy of it, or being close to done. Get 24 going, and then once 25 is going, 26 is right there. So, as previously mentioned, finance office software. So you heard me say we're integrating from this software to this software. So what are we paying for, and then what's dropping? So in this budget, the reason why you see it dropping, we no longer have to pay for Novatime. This past year was our last payment to Novatime. We'll make our 5th payment, and then we will be done with that software. Another software that we're still paying for at the moment, but we'll also be sunsetting, is the MCSJ accounting software. Right now, we're holding on to that because it has approximately 20 years of historical data, as well as right now it has all the water and sewer utility information as well. We're going to hold on to that for approximately another year. It's about $20,000 to $25,000 a year. Hold that, and then we'll let that software package lapse. So at the end of it, we will have ADP, Sage Fixed Assets, and Munis. Right. So those are our 3 new software vendors. So that's my presentation for the finance piece. If anyone has any questions or wants to see any other budgets, they're on the finance page under the Board of Selectmen budget documents, because that's who has approved it, and so that's where all the documents are. And with that, I will pull up the
Questions?
Kevin, can I ask, it sounded from your presentation like there would be salary savings.
Mhm.
But I'm looking at the finance department budget, and it looks like the staff wages have increased for 2027?
Correct. So I'll pull up my work paper so we can see what's happening here. So last year we budgeted approximately $40,000 for the part-time accountant and the outside accountant, about $21,000 each. The part-time accountant has been working a little more than the 16 hours. And then also the outside accountant's rates increased from 125 to 150. So you'll notice the savings really, if we did the same year over year, we'd be at 191 for just the 3 clerks in the office without the part-time accountant or the outside accountant. So we shaved down the hours here from the 37.5 for 3 jobs to 28 hours here. We're imagining this position will be sunsetting in the next 18 to 24 months, and I imagine the same will be happening with this part-time AR clerk. I imagine this will be going down, the 4 hours we're budgeting right now a week for outside accounting help once we get caught up with our audits. So that's kind of the breakdown there. So there is a slight increase to these lines here. The 3 union people in my office are reducing from approximately 191, currently 186, to the 178. So the outside accountant and the part-time accountant to help with the audit are really driving that increase at the moment.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kevin? Okay.
All right. You want to get into the Board of Finance presentation next? I don't have a presentation. It's just a quick little 2-liner. So Board of Finance. I'm just pulling it up. Okay. So the increase here really, part-time clerical is more to match the actuals. So if you look over to the top left, you'll see that part-time clerical recording secretary line. We budgeted $1,500. That came in at $3,600 the prior year. Quite a few more meetings in budget time, and it takes a few hours to get these budgets, to get the not budgets, the board meetings typed up and over to the town clerk's office. So I do know last year, I think it was Chairman McAllister did bring up using AI to summarize minutes. It hasn't quite hit municipalities yet, but that's something we were looking towards for the transcriptions. So that's been a push there. So I imagine the next year, the next push will be to look towards automating or creating efficiencies in the recording line, because if you add up all the recording lines, the recording secretary lines across the entire town, it's pretty substantive, I imagine.
We use it almost universally at my company now, and it works fine.
Really? Is it through, we'll have to talk offline about software packages or what you use for that. But, so is anyone question of the part-time clerical? I'll move down to the audit service line. So audit services, last year we spent $164,000. just so everyone's aware, we're trying to accomplish multiple audits in a year because we're behind. So we're budgeting essentially for one audit, right? But we're paying for multiple. So this current year, we're in 2026. We're paying for 2024's audit. I imagine 2024 will be done before fiscal end, which means we'll probably have the first payment in 2025's audit to absorb this year, right? Just so everyone's aware, we're playing catch up on this. So there's a time where we have to catch up to that train, and this is the time. So last year you saw it. This year will probably be very similar to that. But once we get caught up, that number will probably be more in line with that $90,000. That $90,000 doesn't include $15,000 from the water and sewer piece, as well as $15,000 from the Board of Ed. So we're budgeting approximately $115,000 for audit services.
Questions? Anybody?
And then just one other piece of this, we did also budget an additional $10,000 in the sewer fund, which is in the purview of the Board of Finance, just so you're aware, to do some extra accounting for the sewer assessment receivables. We're having a little issue reconciling that year after year, so we put about $10,000 in the sewer assessment fund to look at that if that issue arises again. So approximately $125,000 set aside to get an audit. And we will have, after this year's audit, we will have to RFP this. So that's something to come down the pike, and we'll talk about that when that time comes.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Next up.
On to general government.
All right, so general government is, shut my screen off for a second. It's the 105-4139. It says Gen Gov miss and benefits across the top. Should look like.
We'll find it. Go ahead.
Everyone have this?
Yes.
Okay. I'll walk right down this list here, so we're all. All right, first line, FICA Medicare, 7.65% of wages. It is that calculation is right from the actual work paper. At the very bottom of the work paper, I have a calculation here of how much we need for health for salaries. So salary line right now, we're at 13.65 million for salaries on the town side. You go here, it's 6.75% of that number. So right now, it's about a $3,000 cushion in there, right? So let's go back to that real quick. So that's where the FICA Medicare line is. If there are any reductions to any salaries, that is a line we go back to at the end of the budget, and we look to see what that number is, right? So that's where we can make changes there. Workers' compensation was a contracted 5% with KERMA, the Connecticut Insured Risk Managers Association, I believe it stands for. It's a quasi-governmental organization that gives us our LAP insurance and workers' comp. So 5% pension. Let's dive into this one because this is kind of the account says pension, but it really should be pension / retirement. Excuse me. So what is driving the pension number? Go up here. The pension, current year, we're spending approximately $1.1 million on the pension. Here's the breakout. This upcoming year, we're anticipating a $1.25 million payment to that pension plan. And this is the breakout here. So if you notice, general government, just click here. These are the ones that the general government will pay for. Board of Ed's on the hook for that for the $295. Water and sewer split the $32,537. Right, and that comes out to be the $1 million. Non-affiliated are not in the pension plan. So that top part, just so we all know, this is the pension, defined benefit. So this firemen, police, dispatch, and then a few grandfathered in on the town side. Excuse me. Powerade. Non-affiliated, so all the department heads, and now all UPSU, all firefighters with the exception of one that was grandfathered in, are switched over to the defined contribution. So it's a direct, piece of their wages that we pay into. Okay. And then the new one from this for this upcoming budget year, UPSU. UPSU has converted in their contract negotiation from defined benefit to a defined contribution. What's nice about that is this number up here, this 1.25 million, this number is going to start to plateau with any hope. Let me just pull this one more up, just showing where everyone's coming with that. Pension. You can never
Kevin-
find what you're looking for.
Kevin, per a prior meeting, we talked about funding that pension at such a high level. Were you able to determine if we can lower our contribution?
So I
And-
did talk to another finance director about that, and the impact would be to our bond rating is usually where it would. One of the questions asked during the rating agency calls is what percentage did you fund your ADAC? So besides that, I didn't really see too much fallout. But when you're looking at a debt service load, if our bond rating, is something like, it comes down to bond rating. It comes down to the bond rating. So that's all I really had on that one, Kim. And then obviously, besides the bond rating, it would be a reduced funded plan. Because you wouldn't be contributing to keep that plan funded. As
Right, but you didn't get the federal minimum requirement. I mean, I appreciate, well, I withdraw my question.
I will ask if there is a minimum requirement. I just have never I've never seen it not the ADAC. So I'll follow up. Federal minimum requirement. Okay. Okay, just getting back to this. I couldn't find, so I was trying to find, just so the board knows, it's on the town website, but what I was looking for was the 5-year deterministic study we had to show as long as the pension plan maintained a certain return on its assets of approximately 6.5%, which is our discount rate, what the pension contribution would be 5 years from now. It's right around that $1.25 million amount. Okay, next, life insurance, long-term disability, up slightly from $18,000 to $19,000. Long-term disability insurance, flat year over year. The big nugget here, health insurance and dental care. So let me open up my work paper on this one. Supporting documentation, health insurance analysis. So, there's some fluctuation here depending on who is, what jobs are not filled, as well as who is currently not taking health insurance, because we do pay a stipend. So when an individual, say a police officer, right, doesn't get our health insurance, but they still get a $3,000 to $4,000 stipend from the town, contractually obligated in their contract. Since they don't get their, it's almost like a little, hey, you're not taking our health insurance at a cost of $40,000 per family. Here's $3,000 for health insurance for your other plan. So, reason I bring this up, these are some of the positions that were not filled. So whether these are filled as a family plan that changes versus a single plan versus that just $3,000 flat stipend, right? So when you're looking at the future year, the year coming up, the value, the health insurance piece for a firefighter on the town is $37,500, right? So it's quite expensive for health insurance, and that's why this is the largest driver of the budget, right? Health insurance is up $700,000. So when you look at the overall budget on the town side, this is the largest driver of that. So I guess we should this is nothing more than just open positions, so 1.5 police officers, 3 new firefighters, right? So we can come back to this after we've had a discussion on full-time and anything else there. Okay, Next line, retirement. Yep.
Can I back you up to the pension line?
Sure.
With all the construction at
Mhm.
95, do you anticipate a bubble coming with extra pension benefits?
We're in that bubble, Rich.
Okay,
This
we're
is the
already
bubble.
in it.
This is the bubble. When you look at 3 years ago, the town made a contribution to the pension of $450. Then it went up to $700. Then last year was $1,085,000. We're anticipating $1.25 million this year. That project is ending this November, right? And my anticipation is with the cessation of that project, I think you're going to see two things. One, I think you're going to see a few retirements on the police side for those longer longevity individuals, right? Because it's based on the last 5 years. So this is it's good as it's going to get, right? I mean, you're talking some of the hundreds of thousands of dollars of overtime here. So that sunsets this November. We're budgeting for that to sunset. In the revenue side, we're going from, when you look at over here, revenues, the town does take a piece of that road job to offset this pension number. Let me just pull it up here. Extra duty right here. This line, extra duty police, 125 is what we're currently budgeting. I dropped this to $90,000 in the upcoming year. I don't foresee the whole there's still other things out there that the police department do traffic control for besides that job, but that job is the majority, right? So, what was the question, Rich? Did that kind of answer it?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? We'll just dive back into the retirement piece of this. This line right here, retirement liability. Last year we spent approximately $112,000. This current year we're budgeting $150. I increased that to $160. We cut it back to the $150. Just so everyone knows, if say some of those police officers are retiring, like we were just mentioned, vacation is paid out 1-to-1. So if they've accrued a couple weeks of vacation, we're paying that out. We pay for a piece of their sick time, and then we pay all their comp out, right? So police have a comp time bank they're able to accrue. So it doesn't take many people before we hit that those limits.
Are there caps on the comp time and vacation accrual?
Yeah, for just off the top of my head, vacation is 2 years worth. So if you get 5 weeks, you can carry 10 weeks. That's just rough numbers. And then sick is paid out differently by contract. 30% to 45% roughly, I believe. But if they're carrying 1,600 hours of sick time, and we're paying out 30%, you're paying 300-400 hours, right? At $40 an hour, 16 grand just in sick time. So it adds up quick. Right? It doesn't take much to eat into that retirement liability number. Does anyone have any questions on the personnel services piece of this before we turn into legal? They're kind of all lumped into the same. Good, Scott?
Okay. Hope you feel better.
All right, diving into legal. So transcripts, 7,500 is pretty flat to where it was last year, 7,491. Legal advertisements. So we'll see what happens at the state level, but currently all advertisements have to be published in a periodical in circulation within the town. And so last year we spent about $23,500. This year we're budgeting $25,000. All right, here's the big ones. These are some of the drivers of the budget right here. General government legal services. Currently, we budgeted this year for $120,000. We just hit that, so we increased. In January the rates went up approximately 50%. So when you look at a $200,000 line item from last year, you kind of need to look at that and say, okay, well, the rates went up 58% since then. That's where we kind of came up with that $336,000. Since then, we've had some discussions. We're looking to potentially RFP this, and with that, we've reduced that line down to $216,000 from the $336,000. So that line will probably be under pressure, but we're looking to put that out to RFP in the near future here, and see what we can do for that.
Do you feel that that's a reasonable amount to have in there, since we spent close to that in 2025? And our legal fees are going up. Are we having that much reduction in use of legal?
Dan, you want to touch that one? That's a more philosophical question.
So,
Yep, you're on.
yeah, you can hear me? Okay. So, we had some extraordinary events last year and a half, and we incurred substantial legal fees as a result. Hopefully, we're beyond that phase. So we get down to more normal operations in town, so we get back to normalized legal fees. There are some lawsuits that are pending against the town, but the legal fees for those lawsuits are covered by the insurance company. The firm has a duty to defend, so they are paying for defense costs for those lawsuits that you may have read about in the newspaper. So I'm hopeful that we'll get back on track, that we have more normalized legal fees. That doesn't mean that the amount won't go up, that the amount that the attorneys are charging us have gone up, but as Kevin indicated, we're quoting it out. There's an RFP out there, and we will see where that leads us. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, very similar situation in zoning. The zoning legal is the same law firm. So let's kind of go hand in hand. So that's why there was a large spike in the zoning, as well as anticipated. What's going on there, Dan? There's increased zoning regulations coming down the pike?
Yes, there has been legislation that's going to require the town, all the municipalities, to revamp their zoning laws to be consistent with the new legislation. And it's going to be expensive. We're trying to control costs somewhat, working with the Southeastern Council of Governments. There may be some savings in working, so that every municipality doesn't have to reinvent the wheel with some of the zoning changes. But the zoning codes are fairly specific and unique to each municipality. So maybe some general things that we can save money on working with the COD, but there will be expense involved in meeting that requirement.
All right, so with that one, labor, there's two labor lines. We break out town/general government from public safety. Added together, it's $120,000, which is $10,000 a month. Planning, $10,000 a year. In conservation, anticipation of, if there's any kind of court proceeding or anything they have to do, $15,000 will cover probably one hearing. So when you look at last year's legal lines, you're looking at about $565,000. So we initially proposed $665. The first selectman and I cut that back to $570. Board of Selectmen cut that back to $589. So just something to think about. It's $100,000 less than we spent last year in legal, and we just increased the legal fees 58% on top of that. So this will be an area to watch. Okay. With any questions of legal, we'll hop into contracted services. Next line down. So unemployment compensation, governments are a little different than other businesses. We do not have unemployment insurance. Governments pay 1-to-1. So if someone's on unemployment, we pay for the cost of that unemployment benefit. Evictions, moving and storage, is $200. That's really to pay for an ad. If we have to move someone's items into storage, If they're being evicted, it's a town responsibility. Checking indices, the same gentleman has been doing our indices here in town for decades for the same price. He charges $2,000 a year to index all, to check all of our indexes. It's a great, when he retires, we're going to be in that line. I don't know what's going to happen to that line because he does like everybody in the region, so that'll be interesting to see. Insurance, LAP, PD&L. We were able to reduce this. We budgeted initially 3.5%, I believe it is, and we cut that back to 3% after reviewing our contract. $6,000 decrease, but it's really there's no wiggle room there. Now we're paying exactly what the contract is. Cybersecurity insurance, we did not eliminate cybersecurity insurance, but it has been moved. So that is now up in IT, right? So we have cybersecurity insurance through one of our vendors. So we no longer needed to break it out in an individual line. It's up in the IT budget. Active assailant insurance, we split this with the Board of Ed. The town has $1 million policy. It's approximately 50-50 between town and Board of Ed. It's no longer active shooter insurance. This covers a bigger array of incidents, whether operations has to be moved, whether there's all sorts of things, right? We never hope to have to use this, but the town does have this coverage in place. And then lastly, employee assistance. That's the EAP insurance. What was it? Employee Assistance Program, EAP, for anything going on there. And then, sorry, two more. I didn't see those. Two more, professional management and development. So that is set aside for the first selectman. Currently, there is a piece of that is paying for the Zoom license. So a small piece of that is the Zoom license, and then the rest of that is for training based on the first selectman's discretion. And lastly, dues and fees for the town. CCOG is the Southeastern Council of Governments. I don't know what CRED stands for. CCM stands for the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, and there's a few others there as well. I believe they're listed on the narrative section. Council of Small Towns, as well as SEAT is there, and CRPC as well. So it's all the memberships that the town is a part of that really need a place in the budget somewhere. So this is where they sit. So when you look at this, the increase from year to year is $1.5 million. It's driven by approximately $200,000 in legal services, and the rest of it is sitting up here in the health insurance line and the pension line. That's where, and on the town side as a whole, this budget is up $1.56 million. When you go to the town budget, you go to the summary worksheet, town budget's up $2.7 million. General government's up $1.9. Health insurance and retirement make up 1.6 of the $1.9 million. So everything else across the entire town hall operations, $300,000 increase, $1.6 million, just the health insurance and retirement piece of it. So.
Kevin, could you just clarify for the cyber insurance? I know you said it moved to IT, but is it a separate policy or is it a rider to the existing policies for the town?
It's not so it's we have CrowdStrike, which is like an endpoint cybersecurity. As part of that agreement, they offer cybersecurity on top of our plan. I think we just had to say yes to it, maybe the slight cost of a couple $1,000s. So it wasn't part of our KERMA, which oversees our liability and workers' comp. This was an added benefit from our cybersecurity vendor. Does that make sense? So it wasn't LAP or it wasn't workers' comp. It was a third party.
Right, I understand what
Yeah.
CrowdStrike is. I guess my concern is that typically your professional liability, your D&O insurance, I would say traditionally, cyber insurance is included as a rider to that. I'm very concerned if the town of East Lyme is only spending $2,000 for a throw-in from CrowdStrike. I would be very Dan, I would be very concerned for you as first selectman that we're only spending $2,000 on cyber insurance, and it's from CrowdStrike, which has been hit with cyber attacks multiple times. Like, I don't think that policy is enough, and I would encourage you to look at the D&O, the general liability, and make sure that we have some cybersecurity rider, because $2,000 from CrowdStrike, I would lose sleep over that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So does anyone have any questions on that general government?
Just to clarify, so from last year, the total budget was 5,824,000. This year it's 7,386,000, and that increase is primarily due to pension, health, legal fees. What else? Those are the three big drivers, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, if I don't know if you can see behind you, Barry, or up here, but I mean, if you just, if we take, what I did was just take the current budget minus the last approved, and you'll see 210 increase in legal. Come up here,
Mhm.
1.3 million. I mean, that's what's this one? 10 grand, 6,500, 4,000. The majority of that increase is the 200,000 for legal, and the 1.35 million for personnel.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right, just delete these so I don't ruin my work paper. Next up, if we're good with that, I'll dive into debt service. Does anyone have any other questions with the general government piece of it? Okie dokie. All right, debt service is pretty straightforward. There's not much we can change. Okay. Okay. Love when numbers reconcile. Okay, so,
Kevin, is it possible to
make it
enlarge
larger?
that? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, Rich.
Thank you.
There's only a few things we need to look at over here. Okay, hold on, let me just clean this up a bit. Okay, I can hide this. Hold on a second, Rich. We can hide all these payments. So here's the meat and potatoes.
Thank you.
Everyone can see that? So, our oldest bond is from 2016. You're like, well, that's not that old. We've been refunding them, refinancing, right? So in 2021, we did 2 refinances. So we refinance all the old debt, right? So when we look at our debt load, our debt service, if anyone doesn't have a copy of this, I will print out a copy.
Is it in our binder?
It should be. Remember, we had a caveat last meeting.
Yep.
Which part of the binder will
It should be right at the very end. I could print this off in 2 seconds if you guys want.
It should be at the very end?
It should be at the very end, 1054801.
I don't see it.
Can you go on the mail in for me? They're forthcoming.
Okay, thank you, sir.
If that's the only one we missed, we did go to those budget books, but we'll see. See in a little later here. But while Dan runs and grabs that, so I'll just highlight here. So, 2016 bond, interest of 79,000, principal 750. 2017, 50,000 interest, 160 principal. So you can see these are the print. This is the principal column. Let me take the page view out here. Sorry, everybody.
Kevin, do you have the interest rate for those bonds?
Oh, yeah, yep. I actually have a detailed, so I figured this conversation was going to debt amortization schedules. Yeah, I can get that for you, Kim. These are all the amortization schedules here. I just don't see the.
I was just curious if we, like where the interest rates compare for the different bonds.
I can't believe it doesn't say it on here. I can get that easy enough. I'll pull that up. Thank you, Dan. So we do have, just so the board knows, we do have a
Can you make it just a little bit?
little bigger. Yep, yep.
Thank
And
you.
So what we're looking at here for those, we do a content PIP. Yelled at by Mr. Mines. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the right side of that work paper. So this is right from our U.S. Bank debt service payment schedule. So, there's no funny business here. Right to the numbers. So, between 2016, 2021, those are general obligation bonds. You can see in 2021 that was a good interest rate year. So we refied those GROBs. Those stands for general obligation refunding. So essentially, you're refinancing, right? So we've refinanced old debt at a lower interest rate. And we did that for a few of them. So you see there's a Series A, there's a Series B. The last time we took out debt was in 2023. We currently have bond anticipation notes that are outstanding, but you don't pay the principal, you just pay the interest piece for that. There are some band fees. So there's a pay down we're required to do when we roll over bands for more than 2 years. And just so everyone knows, when I say band, that stands for bond anticipation note. You are taking a short-term note with the anticipation of long-term financing later down the road for that, right? And a lot of people do that up front to, take in money for cash flow to get the projects out the door, and then once you're able to get the project done, then you bond for it when you actually have the final dollar amounts on that. DWF and DWF 12, DWF 13, those stand for drinking water funds. Those are from 2012, 2013, so I can't really speak too much to it. I believe one of them is the interconnect. Does that sound about right, Dan?
Yeah.
The town agreed to pay for it, I believe. I think it's the 2013 one, the larger dollar amount.
Would be the interconnect.
Yep. So besides the general obligation bonds we have, there are some DWF loans we have out there. Those are 2%ers. Those are great. But the only problem is you have to follow a lot more of an arduous
Reporting.
Oh, yeah, and it comes at a higher cost. So that's something we're exploring right now with the PFAS project. If anyone's been reading about the water and sewer PFAS project, we've been exploring DWF monies for that as well. Because there's a potential for a grant piece of up to I think $1 million per project, if I'm not mistaken. It's a good chunk of change. So, but overall, when we look at this, we're paying interest of $2.7 million, principal of approximately $5 million. We're looking at a debt load of $7.3 million, right? So, anyone have any questions here? So just one other piece of this I'll show you. So that's the debt service, right? That's what the town has to pay this year. This is where we currently sit for debt, minus the DWFs. So when you look at the 2016 to 2020 bonds, this is a debt load, $94 million right now. So, and this is just so board's aware, when we talk about the debt spiral we're in and everything going on here, in CIP today or last week, we were talking about the Board of Ed exploring a new high school, not a new high school, but renovations or something in the 8 to 10 year time frame.
Yeah.
That's coming at a tune of many zeros at the end of that, right? That's not going to be a $1 or $2 million fix. There's $26 million or $28 million just in repairs in the 10-year CIP for the high school, right? So I imagine those won't happen, but something's going to happen at the high school, right, with a big dollar amount. So just that's kind of what I'm focusing on. That's the piece that is missing in this debt projection. How do we plop in, say, a new high school, a renovated fire station, or whatever it is? How do you fit these into the model, right? So,
The figures that contribute to the tax load is the interest due, the 1609963, plus the principal due 445000, and the interest is also there.
sorry, Barry, can you point me where you are?
Under the interest due at the bottom,
Hold on, I don't know if we're looking at the same work paper. Just turn.
He's looking at the handout.
Are you looking? Okay, hold on. I just hit a few columns here, so let me see if I just unhide. That didn't help me much. Hold on a sec, Barry. Oh boy. Okay, sorry, Barry, keep going.
so the tax load comes from the payment for the interest due 1609963, plus the principal due 445000. And is it plus the total debt service interest 7266119?
So the one piece of it, there's a reconciling item. Can I just come up real quick, Barry? I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So make sure I understand what you're saying, Barry.
I'm trying to figure out how much we're covered by taxes. Is this plus this?
Sorry. This is just the payment schedule. These this is the summary of all these payments.
Okay, so
Right.
this
So-
figure here for the interest, that's all we're covering with taxes?
Oh yeah, that's 7,220,000 right here. Right here in your budget book, 722,266. That's the debt service. So, yep, I got you.
Okay, so that's all we're covering by taxes.
Yep.
Okay,
Just want to make sure we're looking at the same number, Barry.
okay, all right.
So, yep, so just so everyone understands how this all ties together between operating and this debt piece. So we have interest of 2,620,048. We have principal of 4.6, total 7,266,000. If we go to the operation budget here, we look at the front sheet, debt service, 7,266,120. Right? So that's what we're paying in debt and interest, principal and interest. Does that help you, Barry?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And then, Kevin, just confirmation, right? So that is what is existing debt
Yes.
today.
Correct.
And then, as we look at this capital list that was presented tonight, that's another $7 million being added.
Mm-hmm. 625, but yep. Yep. Yeah, well, I have it. So I knew this question was coming, Kim. So I put the number right up here for you because I knew where this conversation I think was going roughly. So right here, column D29, that number should tie. Let me just. I'm only saying should. Yep. Okay. So on your CIP worksheet here, bonded number would be 6,238,000, and that number ties right there. So. And this is where I think I just want to explain for everyone at home and for the board to see this. This presentation here that shows this debt spike, that's if we just stopped bonding 3 years from now, right? That debt spike just doesn't drop like that. That's only because my model stopped, right? Because I didn't want to model this out for 50 years. That $10 million is not going to go down unless you break the dependency on debt. Right, and so that's what I just wanted to get across to the board. Like, and so just how do I come up with these numbers? When you look at that municipal comparison worksheet, right, where other towns are paying $5+ million in cash capital, you'll notice here in red, I tried changing the colors. You see it goes from 6,238,000, which is the current projection, to 6 million, 5.5, 5. In between the yellows there, it goes down to 3.5 million. That 3.5 million in my head is still 7 million in capital projects, 3.5 cash, 3.5 bonding, right? So that's essentially, we're doing 7 million, last couple of years, it's been roughly 7 million capital projects. It's really breaking that bonding with it, right? We gotta get to that, the cash capital piece of it. So just in this quick little thing, I just, okay, well, if we start at 623, bring it down to 6, bring it down to 5, and just drop a $500,000 a year. But keep in mind, it's not like that's just falling off. On the operating side, you're adding a $500,000 a year to that cash capital piece, right? So it's, you know,
To get to that level.
yep,
you
and in
have to-
between, that timing between the two, where you're increasing cash capital and weaning down your debt, you're still paying your debt. So there's a good chunk, there's 10, 15 years where you have an elevated debt load and you're trying to raise cash capital, you're paying for both, right? That's the balancing act that has to happen in the next decade to break this. Well, sooner than a decade preferably, right? Kim, is that kind of, are we speaking the same language?
Yes, or
Mhm.
we aggressively manage our capital spend and we question every single capital approval because frankly, I don't think this town can afford $7 million a year in capital. From my perspective and how I'm reading these financials, it has to stop this year or our mill rate is going to continue to be compounded and our residents can't afford that. And if you look, thank you to your spreadsheet, Kevin, we're already at $5,171 per citizen in tax burden, right? We're in the top 3 of your town list. So while I sincerely appreciate all the work that's put in to the capital improvement project committee and the service of our finance committee members, that can't be the capital list. Or we're going to have to make other cuts operationally to offset the capital. This is unsustainable. I said it in the last meeting, I'm going to keep saying it every single meeting. It's not sustainable for this town if we're going to have a reasonable mill rate and we're not going to put the tax burden on our citizens.
Yeah, I haven't updated it in a while, but that 5-year projection, 5 years, you're looking at a 41 mill rate.
Yeah.
Don't turn around, but I still have to look at that, but I still have to play with the numbers because it's obviously we're down, but it's still, this is alarming, and we haven't solved the issue yet. So I'll leave this one on the screen too much longer.
Any further discussion on the debt service? Okay, can we move on to contingency then?
Yes, sir. Okay. Contingency, this is another one of the, how do I say this? One of the ones I feel like it's easier to slash sometimes, and then may come back later, but just, I'll pull it up here. So, rear camera, good there. Okay. So when we look at contingency, we have personnel contingency,
And what number is that, Kevin?
105-9800. The chance of you having that, Barry, and not having the one before it, which was debt service, is probably slim to none. So let me just print copies of this for everybody here. Dan, wait a sec though, because it's going to take a second to print the 2 pages.
Well, do something useful tonight.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Ready to rock. All right, so while the first selectman is grabbing that for me, what a guy, we're just going to touch on these, and if anyone has any questions on the first one, I'll be here afterwards if you want to have questions, or pop in my office after. So first one, personnel contingency. This is, right now we're in 3 union negotiations, fire, dispatch, and police. So all 3 of our public safety facing union contracts. We're setting aside approximately $308,275. And I do have a breakdown of what that entails. Other contingency to talk about, Coastal Resiliency Fund, OPEB Trust, that's just essentially a placeholder to keep it there, so we can keep discussing it, and hopefully that fires up soon. And then town-wide operations contingency, I originally requested $375,000, which would be about 1% of the town-side budget. That's since been getting cut back to $250. That is still higher than where we currently are, but as everyone knows, things just pop up. A dock washed up on the beach, that was $30,000. A boat was sinking in the harbor, that was our responsibility, that was $27,000. It's all the catch-alls, everything. So our deductible for our insurance is $10,000. Someone took out, the reason why that boardwalk is getting replaced, the first, all the Trex decking, the first 20 feet was taken out by a driver. And so we ended up putting the first 20 feet down. That was a $10,000 deductible. So essentially you paid $10,000 for the first 20 feet of it. And now we're going to replace the rest of it. So all these little things add up, and they don't really have a budget for them, right? So that $250 catches all of that. All right, now that you have a copy of the budget of that.
Any questions for Kevin on this?
So ideally, when we look at contingency, and you look at GFOA best practices, they're telling me between 1% and 5%. 5% contingency on $100 million is $5 million. That's more than we budget for all public safety, so that's not happening. I was trying to go for 0.5% of just the town side operations, right? So I'll continue pushing for that. So.
Have we always had the coastal resiliency and the open space contributions in contingency, or were they separate
So I don't really
line
know.
items before?
We had, so if you remember last year, we have a whole new accounting system.
Right.
So we have new names for things. So if there was a spot in the budget for an open space contribution, I don't know where it was. But, so I kind of put it in this contingency, operating transfers out kind of thing. There's not really a good spot for it. But the coastal resiliency one was new last year. Last year was the first year. That
Right.
$10,000 was the inaugural $10,000. So just, and so when you look at the coastal resiliency funds from other towns, Branford, I think, is putting either $1 million or $1 million a year into that fund, right? So that's something, in future years that is going to have to be looked at once a plan is more developed from the Hazard Mitigation Committee that's kind of overseeing that fund right now. So once they kind of develop a plan and come together with a budget and some projects for funding, that you'll probably see more activity there.
Okay.
It's really a placeholder, and it helps us
Yep.
with our bond rating.
And open space was essentially, for the most part, that fund was wiped out. With
Right.
the exception of, I think, 2,000 maybe? There's a couple $1,000 there.
Right.
That was wiped out mainly for the Hathaway Brainerd Road. What's the other piece I'm missing? Oswegatchie? The three lands we bought. Yep.
All those parcels.
That took 200,000 out of open space.
Right.
So. So. That's all I
Any
got for
other
you.
questions? Okay. It's at the point in the meeting for public discussion. There is no public here. Any board comments? I think you wore us down, Kevin. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It passes 5-0.